Welcome to the Quincy City Council chamber for notice for a public hearing on 2016-287. Madam Clerk, would you again read a public meeting law?
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, and are deemed acknowledged impermissible.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councillor King. Councillor Kroll. Councillor DeBona. Councillor Finn.
Present.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest. Councillor Liang. Councillor Palmucci. Councillor Hughes. 5, 6 members. We have quorum.
Madam Clerk, if you could read 2016-287 is the matter before us in this public hearing.
Yes, this is an ordinance adoption of Section 193 of Chapter 218 of the Act of 2016, proposing acceptance of the provisions of the Municipal Modernization Act that allows for a community to establish a fundamental speed limit of 25 miles per hour on public ways.
All those, anyone who present wishing to speak in favor of 2016-287, would you come forward and state your name and address for the record?
My name is Irene Lutts. My address is 25 Cliff Street in Quincy. And I would like to clearly say that reducing the speed limit on our roadways to 25 miles per hour would be a dramatic step toward increasing the safety of the vulnerable road users in our city, those who walk and those who bicycle. I'm sure you're aware a 20 mile per hour moving vehicle that hits a pedestrian has only a 1 in 10 chance of killing that pedestrian, whereas a car moving 40 miles per hour has a 9 out of 10 chance of killing that pedestrian. So please vote yes on this and put this put safety above speed in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? I'd like to recognize former Ward 3 City Councilor Kevin Coughlin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, councilors. It's great to be back here. And no, I'm not running again. Don't get any ideas. But I'd come somewhat full circle because I was an advocate long before I was a city councilor, and so I'm feeling a little comfortable back in this role, getting used to it. But those of you who served with me for any appreciable length of time may have recalled that I had more than a passing interest in mobility safety. For 3 consecutive legislative sessions, 2009, 2011, and 2013, I introduced, and this council passed, and this mayor signed, a home rule petition. It was an act authorizing the city of Quincy to establish neighborhood speed reduction zones, doing exactly what this legislation that was passed in 2016 would afford the city of Quincy the ability to do, which is to lower speed limits in densely populated residential areas and business areas below the fundamental speed limit of 30. Now, I wasn't successful in getting that legislation through the legislature, though I did go up and testify. I appreciated our legislative delegation's efforts in that regard, but my good friend Marty Walsh, who has a lot more cachet than I do, did it in one fell swoop in 2016. He initiated the same home rule petition, which would allow home rule authority for a municipality to do exactly this thing. So I'm encouraging you, obviously, to do that, not simply because of the fact that I filed the same home rule petition. Some of you remember that I also introduced the senior citizen safety zones, which afforded some of that same type of home rule authority, but only contiguous to areas where senior housing exists. I would commend to your review Section 194 of the same law, you're looking to adopt potentially 193 tonight. 194 allows you to reduce it to 20 miles per hour in designated safety zones, and allows you to ask the Mass Department of Transportation to do that on state roadways as well. That was a limitation that we had with senior safety zones, and it was a source and continues to be a source of frustration for places like the Fennell House, because it is on a state roadway. So I would suggest to you to look at 194 and to consider adopting that as well, because that will allow you to petition the Mass DOT to include a place such as the Fennell House in the senior safety zone designation. I'm also here tonight on a very personal level. February 19th in 2004, my wife's father, who was a World War II veteran, EOW, much like Bob Noble, who survived horrendous treatment, but at the hands of the Nazis, was struck as a pedestrian in a crosswalk within 5 feet of a sidewalk. The car was traveling in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. He didn't die that night, and it might have been more merciful had he died that night. He spent 7 years after that in Mass General Hospital, in Spalding Rehab, in nursing facilities, and then back through that cycle. 7 years because of a careless driver. So this is personal for me. So I strongly encourage you to do what you can. I know this is no silver bullet. As we know, although I learned tonight, I guess it's 5 E's. Jack Gillen always told me it was 3, education, engineering, and enforcement. Whether it's 3 or 5, you have to have the other elements in place. You can adopt this, but unless this is enforced, it's not going to amount to a hill of beans. Quincy Police Department is a damn good police department. And I know during my tenure that any time I asked for enforcement, they were there and it was done. And I know that they're doing that. So I encourage you to pass this and to give the Quincy Police Department another tool in their toolbox. And I thank you for your consideration.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to sign in favor can sign in the back. There's a paper in the back that one can sign. Seeing no others speaking in favor, I'll close that section of the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Last call. Anyone wishing to speak in there's your Mr. Zamzow.
Zamzow, 10 Edgewood Circle, Quincy. I'm not so much here to talk against the proposal so as to suggest that there are other and better solutions. Next, I'd like to state for the record, I am an accident victim. I was struck by a car 20 years ago. I had an 18-inch scar from my knee to my hip. I haven't run in 20 years. I walk funny. Fortunately, I got a bad ankle on the other foot, so you don't notice the limp. With both legs limp. Now, that said, I can readily appreciate the well-meaning intentions that gave rise to this proposed ordinance, as I see dangerous driving in Quincy every single day. At the same time, opting to lower the speed limit citywide, or at least pervasively, is not likely to accomplish all that much, if anything. For starters, traffic speeds are primarily set de facto by the average of drivers' senses of speed capacity of a particular run or road. Slower for narrow residential, faster for others, with official speeds essentially then set to reflect same. Granted, in some settings, speed limits are reduced for good and special reasons. For example, near school zones. And these can be readily enforced. But opting to reduce the basic local speed limit by ordinance is likely to result in general disregard by drivers in a law enforcement nightmare. Perhaps more importantly, are there any data behind this proposed ordinance that locally indicates the proposed drop in the basic limit is going to have any future effect? Or is it just a proposal to make everybody feel good, declare victory, and move on to something else? More importantly, I would suggest actual limitations would suggest much better ways to effectively improve traffic safety. One, in which the council is addressing later, is doing something about the appalling state of local streets. Maintenance, lack of capacity, or in some cases both. Distracted driving is also another serious problem. I see it all the time. For but one example, I was doing a little landscaping at my church near the Firestone Tire and I saw a woman sideswipe a string of cars parked legally along Quincy Avenue. And for another sort of problematic driver, just yesterday I saw someone in a hurry in an SUV doing the indigenous as well as infamous Massachusetts weave on Hancock Street near Memorial Stadium, where Hancock Street is but a two-lane roadway. And the driver almost rear-ended a parked car. The only thing is, it happened so quickly I wasn't able to see if the driver was also distracted. And for a quick and easy observation of problems, I suggest that the council just step outside and spend a little time along Hancock Street, anywhere from Sullivan Tire to Hancock's intersection with Granite Street. For starters, you will see a lot of drivers readily banging a U in the middle of the block. So much for the double yellow line. That and how the new road design is fraught with way too many lanes of traffic lane changes, often confusing signage and traffic signals in particular, not just the new Hawk light systems, but also the light signalization at the intersection of Washington Temple and Hancock Streets, as well as a multiple set of closely coupled Hawk lights and two additional traffic signals in front of the Granite Trust Building and then at Granite Street. There are on the speed humps for the Hawk lights, and no amount of familiarity by local drivers is going to offset the only expected confusion of occasional passage through Quincy Center. That you really ought to consider spending an hour watching this run of Hancock Street during the evening commute. As if you do, you will observe drivers hurling F-bombs and index fingers, barely striking other vehicles and pedestrians and leaning on their horns such that one would think they were in a third world country. And speaking of pedestrians, drivers frequently insist that they have the right of way when Hawk signals are flashing red. I'm personally amazed that pedestrians haven't already been hurt. Conversely, pedestrians are thoroughly annoyed with the long delays to cross, not only at the Hawk signals, but at the confusing and complex light cycle for the crosswalks behind the President's Church at the intersection of the Washington Temple and Cotting Street. Folks, there are bigger and more effective and more important things to be done than a simple 5-mile-an-hour speed limit drop, and they need to be done. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else? Again, you can sign in opposition. There are papers in the back if anyone wishing to sign. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, I close this section and I close the public hearing. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I'd like to open this public hearing related to Order 2017-055. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Councillor Kane. Councillor Kroll. Councillor DeBona. Councillor Finn.
Present.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest. Councillor Liang. Councillor Pelmucci. President Hughes.
If you could read the public open meeting law regarding the...
Pursuant to the open meeting law, anyone may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Madam Clerk, could you please read 2017-055?
Order for a home rule petition amending Chapter 64, Section 3A of the Act of 2001, an act authorizing the City of Quincy to impose a local room occupancy tax, also known as the hotel tax, and an open space recreation and tourism fund.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of Order 2017-055? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 2017-055? Name and address for the record.
Zamzow, 10 Edgewood Circle. He'd be back, but at least Brian Pelmucci's not here to suffer. As for the proposed home rule petition, the use of the hotel tax for roads, to use some of it for road repairs, consider the following. When this legislation was approved in In 2000, there was no Crown Colony Marriott Hotel. Even more, as well as considerable increases in hotel-motel revenue have come into the city's cost for care for major expansions and upgrades of both the Adams Inn and President's Inn. Similarly, a 180-room motel will soon be opening up in Quincy Center. Further, local taxpayers approved the 1% community preservation tax override, in which the state further matches on the order of 50 cents to the local dollar on approved projects. In short, there is ample funding earmarked for spending on local open space, except that is for the mayor's desire to spend even more on things locals do not view as anywhere near as important as he does. For example, spending almost $16 million on merely but the second phase of what will likely run close to $30 million Adams Hancock Green. 30 large in a 2-acre park. This is fiscal insanity. I know that the administration loves to talk up all the features and stuff, but the fact of the matter is the design plan is well past, overpacked with all manner of design cliches and features. For example, multiple water features at both the Christian Science Reflection Pool in Boston South End, as well as has vertical dancing water sprays that reflect play areas at Water Country, and all of which will depend on an already built close to $1 million underground water supply cistern next to this building. Throw in the broad other surfaces that have required underground utilities redone, $500,000 already spent on statues. It's too far. The mayor's made much about how this $30 million will not be funded by local property tax, but at the end of the day, tax money is still tax money, no matter how it's raised, as well as that his claim at the end of the day is but a variation on the street drifters shell game. Similarly, let's not forget that the mayor long said that his dream green would be paid for via IQ funding via New Quincy Center. So much for that funding happening anytime soon. Perhaps most importantly of all, however, is behind the mayor's ask for a $27 million debt issuance funded by the hotel-motel tax, there is at least $36 million in further, mostly parks, recreational, and open space spending, and probably a lot more than $52 million in total after everything is both better known as well as then totaled up. Granted, the administration says it expects to obtain all manner of outside funding to fund much of the at least additional $36 million in follow-on spending. But when, as well as will it be able to do so? Plus, as well as again, state and federal funding is ultimately tax dollar funded. Be sure to note that almost 40% of the at least $52 million proposed is to be spent on about a 2-acre Adams Green. To these verities, does it make any sense to spend tens of millions, literally, as well as soon as possible when the local roads are in sorry shape? In short, given the ample increases in real economic terms in the annual hotel-motel tax since it was enacted 17 years ago, as well as even more revenue yet to come, given the pending new Quincy Motel, there's ample funding available to use some of it to speed up the rate of redoing local streets to the condition which is reasonable, rather than continuing to fall behind. As such, the mayor does not care to agree with the will of this body, but use a modest proportion of the hotel-motel tax to help fund renovating local streets. This body should then seriously consider opting to pare back the mayor's $27 million bond authorization, as well as ride herd on any alternative requests to otherwise spend this revenue, as in all honesty, we know that locals are far more interested in seeing local streets put in good repair than to see Quincy turned into a bucolic paradise. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Amy Visconti. I live at 71 Winthrop Avenue. I wasn't going to speak, but here I am. I'm in favor of using some of the hotel-motel tax to repair the streets and sidewalks because that's what makes up a neighborhood. and a lot of us still live in neighborhoods and not in apartments and condos in downtown Quincy. And the streets are deplorable and the sidewalks are deplorable, and that's what makes a neighborhood, and that's why I want to stay in Quincy. And I applaud Mr. Kane for proposing this, and I would like to see it happen. I would also like to hear of a master plan for repairing the streets. I've lived here almost 40 years, and I've yet to see a master plan in the works, in the making, to repair our streets and sidewalks. So I am in favor of using money from somewhere to repair the streets and sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
My name is Arnold Greenbaum. I live on 39 Fayette Street, which is in North Quincy, and I'm definitely in favor. I live in a condominium complex, which is practically across the street from where a hotel is going to be built shortly. And if you look at that small section of Fayette Street that I live on, there's over 75 potholes. And there's also Wollaston Station that's about to be closed down for 2 years. And guess where all the buses are going to go through? Right on that little section of road. So definitely I'm in favor of making sure that we have enough tax dollars to fix the roads in Quincy. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
John Rutherford, 62 Grumwall Road. Good evening, everybody. I just like to make one point that we can use community block grant money to fix the streets also, so you could lobby to the mayor to maybe use more of the community block grant money. The mayor's already said that he's going to veto this even if it does pass. We need a capital improvement plan that's going to fix the streets. Unfortunately, you can't have low taxes and good services. They don't both work together. So taxes might have to go up to fix the streets if that's what the constituents want. And I would just like to, on a private note, it's my parents' 52nd wedding anniversary today, and they're home watching. I would like to say happy anniversary to my mother and father, who've been living in Quincy for 52 years, paying property taxes, driving on the streets. And to his question right there, Commissioner Raimondi fixed over 11,000 potholes. I'm not sure how 75 potholes on Fayette Street got by. But anyway, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? You can sign back in favor. Seeing no one else wishing to speak in favor, I close this.
Mr. Chairman, we do have an email that just came in to Councillor Kane, and I'd like to read it into the record. Thank you. Dear Councillor, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting in regards to the proposed bonds for parks in Quincy. However, I wanted to make my opinion known to you. I am a homeowner living on Wollaston Hill, and I and my wife are totally blind. We enjoy the parks and the green space available to us in Quincy. However, because we travel around the area extensively on foot, we have a unique perspective on the sidewalks and the streets in Quincy. To say the least, we are extremely disappointed with them. I often remark to my wife that I need hiking boots to walk in order to avoid spraining my ankle. It has become a running joke that even though we are blind, we could tell our sighted Uber drivers we have entered Quincy by the potholes and the rough surfaces in the vehicle of commerce. I know that the parks are important in their enjoyment of life. However, safe sidewalks and streets are, in my opinion, vital. So without them, we travel to the parks and green areas become dangerous. I urge you to consider carefully where you direct Quincy's limited funds. Thank you. John D. Smith of 22 Winthrop Ave, Quincy, Mass.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you have no other communications at this point in support.
Right.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else wishing to speak in favor, I close this section of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of 2017-055? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm Reverend Sheldon Bennett, residing at 43 Marymount Road. I'm a minister of United First Parish Church in Quincy, and I also serve as a director of the Friends of Butler's Pond, which many of you know is a community organization working with the city to restore and preserve Butler's Pond. And I speak on behalf of the Friends to oppose the proposed amendment to Quincy's local room occupancy tax. I have sent an email to Councillor Laforest, or we have, the Friends, to Councillor Laforest with copies to the councillors, which you may have had a chance to see. But in sum, we agree with Mayor Koch and hopefully several of you as councillors that these tax revenues must be preserved for the currently prescribed uses, which include, as you know, tourism, historical preservation, open space, parks, and importantly for the Friends, restoration or maintenance of wetlands and the restoration or maintenance of ecological areas. As the mayor and others have pointed out, funds for such uses are hard to come by from other sources, and Quincy's needs with all of our natural resources and needs for parks and so forth in these areas are great. Butler Pond is a case in point, and I just want to say, Councillor Forrest, but I wanted to thank her. We've greatly appreciated her efforts as our Ward 1 councillor over the years, supporting our efforts in partnership with the Quincy the Public Works and Parks Department to restore and preserve Butler's Pond as a sensitive wetland and natural area, a wildlife habitat, and recreational resource. Butler's Pond is an ecological gem. I don't know how many of you fully appreciate that, but it's located only just a few blocks from this very spot, from City Hall, the new Adams Hancock Park, Adams National Historical Park, and is in fact the front yard of Dorothy Quincy House. Actually, historically, it was the front yard of the Dorothy Quincy House, and for all these reasons is an important element also of Quincy's appeal as a tourism destination. The city is currently in the process of obtaining the necessary permits for an important restoration project to remove accumulated sediment from the pond and to construct a gravel wetland stormwater catchment basin at the Butler end of the pond, Butler Road end of the pond, in order to catch the sediments that enter the pond from the storm drains that serve Butler Road, Marymount Road, the Southern Artery intersection, and part of Marymount Road past the cemetery. Not only to capture the sediments, but also to filter out with natural vegetation the various pollutants and fertilizers and so forth from the runoff from driveways and the roads that invite invasive species to grow in the pond and cause a green scum that you see on the pond to bloom in the summer months. The Quincy Conservation Commission gave its unanimous approval on February 1st, and we expect final regulatory approval will be granted to the city by the state, Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, the Army Corps of Engineers, and other agencies that have jurisdiction. It's in process and it's going well, as far as we understand it. But the next major challenge, this is my point here tonight, will be to secure funding for this project, the cost of which is estimated to be approximately $500,000 between the sediment removal and the stormwater catch basin, the ecological environmental catch basin. And as other sources we are discovering for such funding appear to be quite limited, the Friends, together with the city, which is responsible for the pond, may well need to turn to the hotel motel tax revenue source in order to accomplish this important project. So therefore, for all of these reasons, we oppose this amendment that would increase the allowed uses we oppose the amendment which would increase allowed uses to general purposes such as road maintenances, which do have other funding sources. So we thank the council for your consideration.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Last and final time. You may sign in opposition as well in the back. There are sheets in the back. I want to note that we are in receipt of the email that you mentioned, and we'll make that part of the record as well. Seeing no one else wishing to speak in opposition, or close this section and we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
And we have two matters pending before us on the agenda. We are going to start with Councillor 2016-287 ordinance, the adoption of Section 193 of Chapter 218 of the Act of 2016. This is proposing acceptance of a provision of the Municipal Modernization Act that allows for communities to establish a fundamental speed limit of 25 miles per hour on public ways. Madam Clerk, do you please call the roll?
Councillor King. Councillor Kroll. Councillor DeBona. Councillor Finn. Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest.
Present.
Councillor Liang. Councillor Carnucci. Councillor Hughes.
Okay, pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. With that, on the ordinance pending before us, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for loosening me up before I speak. As I'm sure in this case, many of my colleagues, in this case with many of my colleagues, traffic congestion and speeding are among the most frequent concerns I hear from my residents. As we are constantly looking for ways to make our streets safer, both for drivers and pedestrians, I was thrilled that Governor Baker signed a law supported by our state legislators that allows cities and towns and across the Commonwealth to reduce the default speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25. So, before us tonight is an ordinance that would adopt this language of state law. And I truly believe that adoption will have a great benefit to our residents. Under this speed law, the city speed limit will be 25 miles per hour unless posted otherwise. That 5 miles per hour can and will make a difference in the safety of our residents. There are countless studies that show speed, even 5 miles per hour, can make the difference in the severity of injuries resulting from accidents. Getting folks to slow down on our neighborhood streets is a great step in the right direction. To date, the City of Boston, the City of Somerville, the City of Newton, and 9 other communities across the state have adopted the new default speed law. And I would urge my colleagues to support Quincy joining this group. Having said that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Anyone else on the motion? Sure. The other, we're going to go around the roll with some comments. We do have in the audience Lieutenant McCusker from the Quincy Police Department, so I would at some point want to bring him forward for testimony. We can open up to comments, or if anyone wouldn't mind, we'll go there first. Would that be appropriate? Okay. Thank you. Lieutenant McCusker. Police Department on the 25-mile-an-hour implementation.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm sure I've pretty much met everyone. My name is Rick McCusker, Lieutenant with the Quincy Police, currently assigned to the Special Operations Unit. As far as lowering the speed limit, it's been the policy of the Quincy Police, and it will continue to be that we will enforce whatever the mayor of the council deems necessary to keep the city streets safe. Basically, I can speak personally to the fact that I have been in neighborhoods, and I'm sure some of you have requested us there. And with Run Radar, it's not so much a problem of speed as it is volume. So I can speak to that fact as you make your decision on lowering the limit.
before us the new technology, the speed radar equipment a lot of us have had installed throughout the neighborhood. It's really been great as far as collecting data, what time of day a vehicle is coming, how many vehicles are coming down the street, which direction they're coming down the street, and the, the speed and what is happening during the day, during the afternoon, kind of the typical rush hour of the school pickup time, is often a time we've seen some increases. So that has been great tools for us out in the neighborhood. And then, of course, the SOU doing a lot of the enforcement. So we are grateful for that. With that, I think we're going to go with Councillor Kane, and we may be calling you up for some Q&A, so hang tight. Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I want to commend Bill Harris for this. I think this is a great idea, and following along with other cities and towns that have done this. Traffic is one of the top issues that has been presented to me since I've been on the council here, and it's most often with speeding, especially through neighborhoods. And one of the most surprising things that I learned was that when we started talking about pedestrian issues last year and people getting hit by cars and whatnot due to people speeding and not paying attention, and for numerous reasons, whether they're on their phone or they're not paying attention, doing their makeup in the car, I see that all the time. But it's something that needs to be changed mentally, right? So people need to be more cognizant of how they drive. And I know that even just putting an article out there into the Ledger last year did that. And hopefully this and having the proper posting and the proper enforcement to follow along with, the support of the Quincy Police Department, which we very much appreciate, I'll gladly support this initiative. So thank you, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor DeBona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too will be in support of this. You hear the term, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So we're moving in the right direction with lowering this 5 mile per hour limit. So if we don't do anything about it, nothing's going to change. So in my personal opinion, I'm looking forward to this passing and moving forward. I live on a cut-through street, and it's continuously, and you guys have been very helpful with when I make a call, you guys come right out, do it in the morning, do it after work. But you talk about volume. I mean, now that the weather has gotten better, I see a lot more frequency and volume of cutting through these neighborhoods. And obviously, people have talked about the MBTA and the construction of that. You'll be seeing more and more cut-throughing happening throughout the city of Quincy with what we foresee for the future. So I think this is we're going in the right direction with this. I just wanted to ask a question to you, if I could, for you, Madam Chair, is if the speed limit is 30, can you give a ticket for 31, or do you have to be 5 miles per hour over the limit? How do you obtain a ticket? What is deemed? Because sometimes I know on the highway, if it's a 55 mile per hour limit, you're usually given it at 65. In residential or thickly settled, you're at 30. When are you giving tickets out? I mean, we go to 25. Are you going to be giving them out at 30? What's going to be the enforcement law of that?
I will tell you there's no, written rule as far as enforcement. I think situational elements would dictate when and how a ticket would be given. Is it a bright sunny day with dry pavement? Is it raining, wet leaves on the ground? What time of day is it? Things like that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, not just pick your X amount of miles an hour over the speed limit. I think that would be a very narrow parameters to give.
So other variables and other factors will deem whether you're going to be giving a ticket out or a warning or whatever the case may be.
Correct. And I think education is a big part of it. Is it a verbal? Is it a written warning? Is it a fine? So, but it's not just that 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. That wouldn't be the single factor in it now.
I think another factor also, and I heard Quinn Cycles were up here earlier, Irene, is the bicycle infrastructure that we now have, and I'm a strong supporter of it to get people out of the vehicles into other sources of transportation, whether it be bicycles, whether it be buses, ferries, whatever the case may be. So to put in these new bike lanes and be it deemed 5 mile per hour lower I think will be very, very helpful to slow people down. On the enforcement side, I know what you're going to do, but on the signage, what is going to be the steps moving forward for signage? And do you have any idea if you put it into, now that it becomes a new law or rule, do you put new signage up because of that? Or does that stay the same as what's in there?
I believe that would be state law, correct?
Yes.
So that would be up to the state to change all the signs from the 30 to the 25. The city would have to work with the state of the lead in changing all the signs out.
Okay.
So was that answered or no?
Yeah, that pretty much answers. I just, some of the signage that is up there right now, you don't see a lot. You just know you're in a thickly settled. It's pretty much 30 miles per hour. You know that, but I don't see a lot of signage out there. So,
one way or the other, right? Whether it's 30 or it's a thickly settled area.
Yeah.
Either sign.
Okay.
Right. We could work, I'm sure, with the state and the city to
Okay.
that, or we can publicize that too.
Sure.
Through different types of media. To let people know that things have changed.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll be in support of this, Councillor Harris. Thank you.
We're going to stay on this side. Councillor Crowell.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good evening, Mr. McCusker. Want to commend my colleague here, Councillor Harris, for bringing this forward. I think the general sentiment across the body when we go right down the line through number 9 will be, these are real life issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis, and a lot of the times, speed in thickly settled neighborhoods, as you know, because you do this every day, negatively impacts quality of life. So the way that I see this is just another, resource, or as, my former colleague Coughlin put, another tool in the toolbox for you folks to use. And I have had some success, working with your department and some of that new age technology that actually tracks speed limit and really motorist behaviors. We've had some success with that, and Councilor DeBona actually kind of took my question, because I was more wondering around what is the thought process about posting signage. I'm not going to make you repeat it because I just heard it, but that's certainly something up in the Ward 2 district where we deal primarily a lot of it with senior citizens, right, and motorists using the backside of these high density senior housing as, cut-throughs or runways or speedways or whatever you want to call it. And, anything that we could do to kind of heighten the awareness and, to folks in that neighborhood that, this pending the vote, new speed limit is in effect, I think is imperative. And I know that the department does a fabulous job on multiple issues, but I also know that I get a lot of calls from residents, inquiring about speed traps, for lack of a better word, right? So, what's the department's policy about if we're really having an issue? Like, say, for example, the Upper Penns Hill section. In the morning, we get folks cutting from Braintree down Franklin Street over to across Hillsborough Street over to the highway. I mean, I understand why the driver's behavior would be such, but how do we work best with you to kind of, eradicate that reckless behavior and speed through the neighborhood? What's the policy? What's the process? What's the protocol?
I think one of the best things we could do is to educate people. So, and use social media. It's a huge thing now with people. We could get it out there, and of course, first you educate people. I don't like the word speed trap. We're not trying to trap people. We're not out there to,
right.
We're not a revenue collection agency. I want to educate people so it becomes a way of life for people. So that when you travel through these neighborhoods, you know that it's 25 or 30 or whatever it's going to be. And it's just the way they do things. It's just the way that people act in that neighborhood. So I don't want to say that we're trying to trap anybody. Let
me put it this way. How do we change behaviors, reckless behaviors?
Change reckless behavior.
Right,
I would
of
think
motorists, right?
Education, and then enforcement if necessary. But education would be the first one. Information. That, hey, this neighborhood is now 25, slow down. And then education.
So when you say education, so the speeding motorist who comes up over Franklin Street and cuts down Hillsborough Street, how do we educate them, particularly if they're out of town? Is it we pull them over and say, geez, Mr. or Mrs. Motorist, were you unaware that 25 miles an hour in a residential neighborhood is, the speed limit probably should be 20, but is that form of education or is that more of enforcement?
That's a form of education.
Okay.
That's probably one of our first steps, is that, and it has been to me, is to let people know that the first time I want to educate you on what's happening in this neighborhood, how the policy or the speed limit may have changed in this neighborhood, and the way of doing things, and then We take further steps from there if that doesn't work.
And the best point of contact is through traffic arm of QPD?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
physically, the officer being there and speaking with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just good to know. I mean, again, I appreciate the sentiment behind the, what's before us here this evening. I just, I want to make sure that it has some staying power, right, and actually, corrects those behaviors that we all deal with. I mean, we're not a city unique to speeding motorists. However, if we do have another tool in our toolbox, hopefully we can help educate folks and, manage the situation to a successful outcome, I think. So, thank you for chiming in this evening, and with that, Madam Chair, I'm all set.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Councilor Yang. Herman. Good evening. I too will be supporting this ordinance. I want to thank Councilor Harris for bringing this in front of the body. I think it's a great first step in curbing the issue we have with traffic and pedestrian safety. I'm just going to work out Councilor Crowell's question with enforcement because, this is a step, yes, but the enforcement, of course, is another piece to it. And, over where I am off of East Quantum Street and Williams Street, it's that first house right as you come around that corner. And I'm sure as my neighbor, Councilor Finn, can attest to this, the amount of accidents with people coming around that corner because they fly down either from Quincy Shore Drive, coming on the beach, or coming off of the Ponset Bridge. When you come off the Ponset, actually, I know you don't like the term speed trap, but there are sort of sporadic officers sitting there just watching the speed limit. And so I've noticed over the years, living in the North Quincy area, that as you come off the Ponset, when folks are coming from the highway going, 45, 50 miles an hour, as soon as they get onto that Quincy Shore Drive area off the Ponset, it's an instant slowdown of all the cars around me, and it's whether or not an officer is there, you see that it just sort of happens because I think, again, we're talking in the course of probably 10, 15 years, there's always a cop there, once a month, once every other month or so. And so I understand that education is, of course, an important piece of this, but to what capacity do we have to possibly create enforcement in that way where we can sort of sporadically put patrol units on the same streets over and over again over the course of months, years, just to build up that mentality that folks will know, hey, even if they don't know what the speed limit is, they know they have to be mindful of their speed as they're going through those areas. So again, not to dismiss the education piece of it, but on the enforcement side, what capacity do we have to maybe explore that option?
Well, we have the motorcycles, and we have a traffic unit that would certainly post at specific areas. And if information and education isn't working, then we go in the enforcement. And like I said, it's been the policy of the Quincy Police, and it will be in the future, that we will enforce the speed limits in the city. I know exactly what you're talking about when you come around that bend. Yeah. It's either the state police or the Quincy Police right there.
And you guys have been great in responding to the number of accidents that we've, unfortunately had to call in, seeing them and witnessing them there. But again, that's only a tiny, tiny bit of it. And specifically coming off, again, the Ponset Bridge, when you have that long stretch of road, again, I think it's been really helpful having cops. So you don't know when they're going to be there. It's not every Saturday, every Sunday, every weekday after work, but because they have been there consistently over the course of, a decade or more, I really think it's made a difference. And again, if, we can work on both pieces of them together, the education piece and also finding roads after, if this does go into effect, if we're finding that there are certain problem areas across the city that are continuously happening, it would be a possibility to work with the police department and sort of setting up, maybe not permanent, but long-term, officers standing there just sort of monitoring activity.
I think that's a good idea. And then people don't get there's no set pattern to when we're going to be there.
Right.
And so they automatically slow down anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate your input. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Hughes.
Thank you. Hello. I'm Councillor Laforest right now. That's okay. I'm Councillor Laforest now. Thank you very much for coming up. I'm going to be supporting this. I want to thank Councillor Harris, thank all of my colleagues for being in support of this. I, like everyone here, have also experienced the incredible volume of traffic increasing here in our city, and just, recently have experienced that the information and education piece is key when there are changes to traffic flow or directions in the city. Being someone whose street just underwent some changes, on Willow Ave and that whole area there, I took it upon myself to educate and inform some motorists who went the wrong way.
and that I probably shouldn't have done it. But look, I thank the Quincy Police for coming and enforcing some of those new guidelines that we have in that particular neighborhood, because I do think that being a presence there of enforcement, but at first educating folks to what's going on is important. But I would just urge you again to send some folks that way in the next couple of weeks, because enforcement has really been the key to making sure that people aren't going the wrong way, that they are maintaining a reasonable speed. And, you know, again, it's sad to say that even though you inform and educate a lot of folks, some of them who live in our city, who just, you know, use the same streets, not everybody is coming from another city to go travel our streets. But it's too bad that unfortunately, as much as we educate and inform people of what's the law and what's appropriate in a neighborhood, they still continue to do the opposite. And it's very frustrating as somebody who you know, who gets up every morning and tries to get in their car, leave for work, or put their kids on the bus, or get their kids out to school, and they see this blatant disregard for our safety and our laws and our speed limits. So I thank you and the Quincy Police for being down in that area over the past couple of weeks, and I know the neighbors appreciate that, but they're looking for some more engagement there, and hopefully you all could provide that to us in the coming weeks, just again because they think with the summer coming, people are so you know, engaged outside and being outside more and traveling more. They see a lot more motorists on the street, and look, it's just it's a tough time, and if you would continue to keep up the enforcement in that area, I know we would appreciate it, because we're seeing results when that happens, and I think we're going to see more if that continues. So if you could just take that as a note back.
Absolutely. And like I said, we have been down there, and we will continue to be down there.
I know. I
think in that particular spot, we've done the information and education part. Now it's strictly enforcement there.
Yeah.
So
I got a couple of people you could enforce it with. I've seen every day do it. So if you have any trouble finding them, let me know. Knock on the door. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Palmucci, to wrap it up.
Usually people say after I've already begun talking, they tell me to wrap it up. I listen to the other ward councilors, and I think how I'd like to have those problems. I think no one has as much cut-through traffic as West Quincy. You're literally how you get, other than perhaps a bit of Ward 6 and a bit of Ward 2. We're how you get to Quincy through West Quincy. So it's I'm happy to support this. I think it's a great initiative. Yes, we had a gateway ward, right? I just think, you know, in my years on the council, I've often said this at community meetings, and it's frustrating, some of the stuff that we have to deal with the way people drive. You know, people choose to drive like jerks to save, you know, 5 minutes on their commute or 2 minutes on their commute by zipping down a residential neighborhood that makes everyone on the street feel unsafe, that they can't let their kids go outside, you know. Yeah. And you know, this isn't a conversation you and I are having right now. Okay, all right. And we can't legislate common sense up here. I wish we could. Otherwise, you know, we could make some great improvements. We can't. People are going to continue to drive like jerks, and that's why we luckily have, you know, the QPD out there to do enforcement. And I'm not trying to catch you off guard. So if you don't have an answer to a couple of questions that I have, feel free we'll circle back around. But how many members do we have in our traffic enforcement division?
There's 3 people that work on a day shift in traffic, and on the motorcycle side and the SU, there's 10 of us.
Okay. And so I'm trying to think, the last couple times that I've requested special enforcement due to neighborhood issues, traffic-related issues, it's been officers on the motorcycles. So we deploy them routinely as part of traffic enforcement?
It's one of our functions, yes, is traffic enforcement.
Okay. So how many, if you had to estimate, how many man-hours are we putting into traffic enforcement in any given week or month? Or?
I wouldn't have that answer off the top of my head.
That's right. So I wasn't trying to, it's not a, you know, I'm not trying to stump you. I think that's important to know, you know, moving forward as we kind of look holistically. We're talking about, a traffic study. We're going through the budget process. We're talking about traffic mitigation along with the TPAL department, traffic parking and lighting department. And I think and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're very reactive in terms of traffic enforcement. We go out to where the problems are. You guys may not be, but I don't see everywhere you are in the city. Do you keep a list, like a rolling list of hotspots that you circle back to on a regular, semi-regular basis, or how do you guys determine where to go out?
We get complaints from all the city councilors.
We call them concerns. Yeah, we call them concerns. Yeah.
They come to us.
Yeah.
We get people, citizens, contact us directly and make complaints. So we try to answer those directly to people. So that's how we handle it.
And then I imagine there are certain intersections that you just know you could go down and there's always need certain places.
Right, the major intersections.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here, Lieutenant, and thank you to Councillor Harris for introducing us. Be happy to have this supported. Thank you.
Thank you. I commend Councillor Harris for bringing this forward. Traffic and parking are two of, just hot topics, always chronic complaints, and definitely a frequent flyer passing requests on for information for the traffic radar collection for my ward. One of our biggest complaints that we hear, of course, is Google Maps and Waze, and it's diverting traffic through the residential neighborhoods. So if there's any solution as to how to, amend these technologies to keep people on the main streets and out of the neighborhoods, that would really be a major win for the city, because that's really, particularly in my district, coming off of, say, Quincy Shore Drive, Frankfurt Parkway, the technologies was diverting a lot of them through the neighborhood, and of course the local knowledge of how to save a minute. But it really isn't saving a minute. You're interrupting the kind of neighborhood character, right? So deep in some of the peninsulas, maybe your kids are still, my neighborhood was out tonight playing hoop on the street and still play some street hockey. But now you're talking about areas that were traditional neighborhoods having cut through traffic now coming through and changing that character. So with that, we have a motion for approval, Madam, and I guess I don't need a roll call vote. Positive recommendation will come out of committee. All in favor? All right. With that, motion to adjourn.
Oh, no, we still have one more item.
Oh, we did. My apologies. I thought I appreciate Councillor Pinch hitting for me earlier, and thought that had been taken care of. Councillor 2017-055. We are running right up against the Councils and Finance Committee meeting. So on this is authored by Councillor Kane and Councillor Kroll. Order for Home Rule Petition amending Chapter 64, Section 3A of. All right, we will do that then. Okay, so we are up against the council time. I thought we could get through this fairly quickly. We will recess the Ordinance Committee meeting to open the council meeting. Good evening. Welcome to the Quincy City Council meeting, Monday, May 15th in the Great Hall. This evening's meeting is getting started a little bit late, so the chairman of the Finance Committee has agreed to postpone the 7:25 Finance Committee meeting until the conclusion of our agenda, when we will come back to Finance as well as Ordinance. So just so everyone is aware. But at this time, Madam Clerk, if you will call the roll of members.
Councillor King. Councillor Kroll. Councillor DeBona. Councillor King. Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest. Councillor Leanne. Councillor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If everyone would stand, please, and join me in a moment of silence for all those serving our country this evening, here and abroad, and their families. And please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, if you would read the open meeting law.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First item on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
2017-073, an appropriation and property acquisition for the city Quincy Center District Improvement Program.
Yes, Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This item will be referred to Finance Committee for a hearing at a date to be determined.
Great, thank you. Referral to Finance. All those in favor? Aye. Next item, Madam Clerk, sorry.
Number 2 on the agenda, 2017-074, an appropriation for $75,000 to unemployment account. Upon the recommendation of the Director of Municipal Finance.
Thank you, Madam.
Councilor Crowe.
Madam President, this was basically the follow-up to the conversation that we had during budget time when we noticed that this particular account, Madam Auditor, and correct me if I'm wrong, was already in a deficit, and at which point the Director of Municipal Finance had notified the body that he was going to work on coming forward with an appropriation to basically level set the account. So we had this conversation on Friday, right? Yeah, last Friday. So I don't know, Madam Auditor, if I missed anything. I'd like you to comment.
Okay. Thank you, Council. I did have a conversation with the Director of Municipal Finance, and we had talked about the remaining 3 months that are left to pay bills for unemployment. The figure that was agreed upon was $75,000. We figured that will cover the next 3 months worth of bills. We do receive reimbursements from the college. However, it's basically on a month-to-month basis. So we are asking for the gross amount at this time.
I don't know if any councils have questions, but given we've already had this dialogue, move approval.
Okay, motion to approve by Councilor Crowell, seconded by Councilor Kane. On the motion, Councilor Liang.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to the auditor. Just a question. How much more do we have left in the free cash?
Currently, there was $674,428. If this appropriation gets voted on this evening, it will be down to $599,428.
Okay, and do we have any other accounts that we know of coming down the pipe that will have to be appropriated out of free cash?
I do not believe so at this time. We will be getting ready to do the year-end transfers, which will occur in June. And at that time, generally what we've done in the past is we've gone through and looked at other lines within the budget that have some breakage in it, and we've taken the money out of those lines rather than the free cash.
Okay, and do we anticipate any funds going into and adding to this, or no, because it gets certified the year before, correct?
Excuse me?
You have nothing that's being added to this because it was certified last year, correct?
No, there will be nothing added to this free cash balance this year.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Liang. So motion made and seconded by Councilor Kane. On the motion, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilor Kane. Yes. Councilor Crowe. Yes. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Yes. Councilor Harris. Councilor Laforest. Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
Seven members. Passes. Number 3 on the agenda, 2017-075, is a gift for $1,500 for various donors to the D.A.R.E program.
Madam President, if you could, through you to the clerk, obviously move approval, and could you just make sure that the donors are recognized through a letter expressing our gratitude for their donation.
So motion to approve by Councilor Crowell, seconded by Councilor DeBona. On the motion, Madam Clerk.
Councilor Kane. Yes. Councilor Crowell.
Yes.
Councillor DeBona?
Yes.
Councillor Finn?
Yes.
Councillor Harris? Councillor Laforest?
Yes.
Councillor Liang? Yes. Councillor Palmucci?
Yes.
President Hughes?
Yes.
8 members.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is number 4, 2017-076, a gift for $2,310 from various donors to D.A.R.E Camp.
Similar fashion, Madam President, through you to the clerk, I move approval, and if we could, just send a letter thanking the donors for their gifts. That would be great. Thank you.
Motion to approve by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeBona. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councillor King? Yes. Councillor Kroll?
Yes.
Councillor DeBona?
Yes.
Councillor Finn? Councillor Harris? Councillor Laforest? Councillor Liang?
Yes.
Councillor Palmucci? President Hughes?
Yes.
8 members. Passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That will end our formal agenda for this evening. We'll move. If only. Okay. Next, we'll move to just briefly approval of previous meeting minutes. The minutes of May 1st, 2017 are before you. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Councillor Yang, seconded by Councillor Harris. All those in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Minutes are approved. Communications and reports from the mayor, other city officers, and city boards. Madam Clerk.
I do have some new traffic requests to refer to Ordinance Committee for advertising.
Okay.
I'll start with Ward 1. Add handicap parking to 1 Babcock Street. Add no parking on the east side of Algonquin Road from C Street to 60 feet north of C Street. Ward 4. Remove handicap parking at 38 Hayden Street. Remove handicap parking at 64 Federal Ave. Add no parking on Goddard Street at utility pole number 7. Ward 5. Add no left turns on Spear Street from Bank of Canton driveway westbound. Remove stop sign on Spear Street westbound intersecting with Coddington Street. Add 2-hour parking on the south side of Spear Street across from Francis Ave to the end of the one-way. Add no parking on the north side of Spear Street, Coddington Street to McGrath Highway. Add one-way on Spear Street eastbound from Coddington Street to 140 feet west of McGrath Highway. Remove 2-hour parking on the north side of Willett Street, Earl Street, to cross from Phillips Street, Add no parking on the north side of Willett Street, Earl Street, and across from Phillips Street. Add 2-hour parking on the south side of Willett Street, Marlborough Street to Phillips Street. Ward 6, remove handicap parking at 64 Young Street. Add handicap parking at 209 Billings Street. Add 2-hour parking on the east side of Hancock Street, Albion Road to Buckingham Road. All to be referred to ordinance for advertising. Thank you.
All right. Motion to refer to ordinance and advertise. All those in favor? Aye. Great. You guys have it. Super. Great. All right. Unfinished business. I'm sorry? Correct. Sorry.
2016-201. I've been in receipt from an analysis. It's an absolutely amazing analysis, even apart from my resolution, that is a geomapping of all filling stations and bus stops in the city of Quincy, and it's an absolutely incredible piece of work. What I would request from clerk of committees, if you could find an additional copy that we can make part of the record, because I'm still utilizing what I have following up. But again, it's an incredible analysis that they have. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finn. All right. Next, we'll move to unfinished business from the preceding meeting. Okay. Reports of committees. We'll go first to the Ordinance Committee. No, you want to do it from... we won't recess, we'll just do it now. We'll go into the ordinance committee meeting, or, right? Is that what we want to do? So if you want to run it from, and you can do your graphics now if you want to. Yes, good idea.
Okay, Councilor 2017-059, to install a one-way designation to Brook Street going north from Arlington Street to Newport Ave. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, Councilor Laforest, seconded by Councilor Kane. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councilor Kane. Yes. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Yes. Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor Laforest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
8 members.
Also in Ward 3, Councilor 2017-060, to install a do not enter sign at Brook Street on the Newport Ave side. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, Councilor Laforest, seconded by Councilor Kane. On the motion,
Councilor Kane. Yes. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Yes. Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor Laforest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. Yes. President Hughes.
Yes.
8 members.
In Ward 5, Council Order 2017-068, to install do not enter Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Willow Ave, intersecting with Furnaceburg Parkway. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, Councilor Forrest, seconded by Councilor Kane. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councilor Kane. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Councilor Finn. Councilor Harris. Councilor Laforest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang.
Yes.
Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
7 members.
In Ward 5, Council Order 2017-069, install do not enter Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Anderson Road, intersecting with Furnaceburg Parkway. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, Councilor Forrest, seconded by Councilor Harris. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councilor Kane. Yes. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor Laforest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
7 members.
In Ward 5, Council Order 2017-070, install do not enter Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Oakland Ave, intersecting with Furnaceburg Parkway. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, Councilor Ford, seconded by Councilor Harris. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councilor King. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Yes. Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor Forrest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
7 members.
Okay, still in Ward 5, Council Order 2017-071, install do not enter Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Willow Ave, intersecting with Newport Ave. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation by Councilor LaForest, seconded by Councilor Harris. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councilor King. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Yes. Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor LaForest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
7 members.
Okay, last one. In Ward 5, Council Order 2017-072, install do not enter Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Oakland Ave, intersecting with Newport Ave. I move positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, Councilor LaForest, seconded by Councilor Harris. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Councilor King. Councilor Crowe. Councilor DeBona. Yes. Councilor Finn. Yes. Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor LaForest.
Yes.
Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
7 members.
Okay. Okay. Great. So at this time, we're going to have Councilor LaForest come to run the go back into the ordinance report of the ordinance committee. So we'll go back to our discussion regarding the home rule petition.
Okay, we have. Okay, yeah. All right, so the Council Order 2017-055, the Home Rule Petition amending Chapter 64, Section 3A of the Act of 2001. And this is an act authorizing the City of Quincy to impose a local room occupancy tax, also known as the hotel tax, and an open space recreational and tourism fund. So this was authored by Councilors Kane and Councilor Crowe. With that, Councilor Kane.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So we've talked a little bit about this issue, I think, over the last few council meetings, and tonight I'm glad we can discuss it in Ordinance Committee. This is providing a solution to a problem that I currently see and have seen since running for this seat, as a preeminent issue in neighborhoods around the city. One of the top requests I receive from many constituents are those to repair streets and sidewalks. These are high-ticket items. There isn't that much money available to replace streets and sidewalks, and it's something that also I guess that we can talk about. There isn't necessarily a general process to address these issues. We look at considerable number of spending issues around the city, whether they are enhancing areas around the downtown area, they're enhancing parks around the city, and this is an issue that means a lot to me. I think that at the time when this original hotel motel tax was proposed, there was probably a need to address certain park areas in the city that were, that weren't being taken care of as someone would have preferred or people would have preferred. And now I think we have issues that, have come to a different time that need to be addressed. We talked about another community issue earlier, which passed through Ordinance Committee, which was about lowering the speed limit, which is a great neighborhood issue. I view this along those same lines. We have thousands of people that are using streets in the city to pass through the city. We have neighborhoods whose streets haven't been addressed or repaved or retouched in many years. And this is seeking a way to leverage what are non-personal or real tax dollars for the benefit of the taxpayer, to give them a break. We've seen taxes increase year over year, and I think that this is a way to give people a break and to see a benefit for their appreciation on the assets that they hold dear, which is their property. So tonight I'm going to make a motion for a positive approval out of committee, and I'm going to ask my colleagues to support me as it goes through committee and out back into regular council session. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. I'm kind of lost to the problem. I'm looking up there.
Flow the flow.
Yeah. So this this amendment, I know that we kind of talked through this a little bit in committee to the currently situated hotel motel tax. In my mind, it's just kind of thinking outside of the box and providing an element of creativity to a very, in my mind, versatile revenue stream. I've heard, we've all heard, council session after council session, year after year, term after term, the same ailments that the city of Quincy, and I'll just use my district as an example, suffers from, and that's just lack of investment in roads, quite honestly. I think we've come a long way with the sidewalks. We heard from the commissioner this past budget season, but the reality is, our roads are in rough shape. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, right? I mean, to the point where, road disrepair becomes a public safety issue. And as many folks know, because I say it all the time, because it's the truth and I believe it, I represent, a very senior-oriented demographic throughout the city of Quincy, one that I'm very, honored to serve. And the condition that these folks reiterate, the sidewalks and particularly the roads being in, are just, they're beyond their useful lifespan. So, thinking through what we're really asking here is we're just trying to, look at a revenue source that isn't necessarily tied to the taxpayer per se, but, and I think this is a key differentiator, it is a revenue source. So any time that we make a decision up here, in my mind, regarding, the use of a revenue source, typically the duration of that decision is anywhere between 15, 20, 25 years, right? Because we're going to go and we're going to bond the money, and basically it's locked up. That's the way I see it, because that's the way I believe that it is. So the notion behind amending this particular, hotel motel tax is just to sort of broaden the field, right? And identify and address those 270 miles of street that I know affect every single ward councilor in the city of Quincy. And, I think as Councilor Kane had said, pass some of this on to the taxpayer. But I think more importantly, and I've always said this, I feel like the best demonstration to a resident of their taxpayer dollars in motion is when when a road repair crew is in their neighborhood doing over their street. It makes sense on so many levels, and particularly in my district, I know we're also dealing with antiquated infrastructure that goes well beyond just the road, and it's actually the infrastructure below grade, right? So the water mains. And I know that we had this conversation on Friday, but for me, my list of being able to produce positive results as far as roads go in my district is limited because the majority of those roads need water main replacement. So I think it's an issue on a much larger scale that needs to be addressed. And I'll tell you, I was on my way into work today and just kind of going through the events of tonight, and obviously we've had a lot of stuff in front of us in the last couple of weeks, and if my math was correct, we have roughly a $300 million budget, which we're going through right now, a park improvement plan and a capital improvement plan that's roughly, call it $25 million each, and an appropriation to DIF, which is roughly $80 million. So we have over $400 million of pending financial requests in committee right now, and not a dollar of those are tied to roads. So here is a very timely, prudent, and I believe, a solution to an issue that can, help every resident in the city of Quincy. And like Councilor Kane said, I would certainly urge my colleagues to join us in supporting this measure this evening. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Councilor Bonner. That's okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're looking across the way to Councilor Laforest. Just looking back at this home rule petition that was established and amended back in 2001, we're looking at today, we're coming in 2017. The population back in 2001 was 88,894, and today it's at 94,000, an increase of 5,106. So 5,000 more people are living in this city now over the 16-year span. And Councilor Finn is sitting next to me. He's been on the council this long for the 16-year difference. Well, he's not sitting in there right now, Councilor Kane. Gonna miss him, by the way. But we're talking about revenue streams for the hotel motel tax, as well as the capital improvement plan that we just appropriated and just approved this last year for $5 million for roads and sidewalks. And then there's Chapter 90 money, which is roughly between $1.9 and $2 million, and we'll get our new allocation after July 1st. But right now, we haven't gone into a budget yet with appropriation or a funding source through a budget for roads and sidewalks. So we basically, the two other sources right now that we have for the city of Quincy have been the Chapter 90 funding, which you get on a yearly basis, 1.9, and we've done the capital improvement plan for $5 million so far. I agree. The sidewalks are in pretty decent condition. We're doing a lot of repairs to them. I see we caught up, but the roads are in bad condition out there. But when you look at the situation, I say to myself, what would I be doing if I was in the mayor's position beforehand? And I would be saying, well, this is an amendment that's set up for the parks. So I'm not leveraging parks against roads. I'm basically saying this is a great idea. This is looking outside the box, and I want to commend Councilor Kane and Councilor Kroll for bringing this forward. I will be in support of this amendment tonight. Doesn't mean that I will not be supporting park improvement plan when we get to those votes down the road. I don't like to leverage and throw a wrench in the mix. But moving forward, I hope that this 2017 home rule petition amendment is going to move forward to help out with the roads out there on the streets. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Liang.
Thanks, Madam Chairwoman. I do just want to thank my colleagues, Councilor Kane and Councilor Kroll, for putting this out. Councilor DeBonner, you're right. We have a lot more people in the city, and as we continue to build, that does put a strain on our roads. But you also have to remember that we have projects coming on the pipe
one of which does include potential hotel rooms. So this fund will have the potential to grow by other ways other than the current hotels that exist in our city as we stand today. We do have another hotel potentially coming down the line over on West Quantum Street as well. And so again, as our city continues to grow, not only are we going to grow a number of capacity hotel rooms, but it's going to bump up tourism, hopefully, with everything that's happening downtown. And so I think that this is a really interesting and really creative way to help solve an issue that is number one for a lot of residents across our city. Not to discount the fact that the parks and conserving our parks across the city aren't number one priorities for other residents in our city and town as well. But I think this is a really creative way to address both issues with what we have. So I wanted to, again, thank you both for bringing this in front of our body, and I will be in support of it tonight. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Motion to approve by Councillor Kane. And so is this kind of technically back into the committee that we should call the roll?
Committee and vote on this evening.
Okay. So, seconded by Councillor Harris. Madam Clerk, if you want to call the roll. Yes.
We do have one more in the ordinance committee. That's Council Order 2016-287. This comes out of the committee with a positive recommendation. It is the adoption of Section 193 of Chapter 218 of the Act of 2016, proposing acceptance of a provision of the Municipal Modernization Act that allows for a community to establish a fundamental speed limit of 25 miles an hour on public ways. This was authored by Councillor Harris. So motion to approve. Yes. Yes. That's all from ordinance.
Thank you, Councilor Laforest. Next, we will have a report out of the Finance Committee. Councilor Carl.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I would like to take out of committee Council Order 2017-50, which is the appropriations for $27 million from hotel motel tax for park improvement plan. And I believe we're joined here this evening by the park director, who I think is going to give the presentation, although I could be.
Great, thank you.
Right.
Ms. Friend.
Good evening, Paul.
Madam President, councilors, I think in my previous presentation on the various projects that we're planning to do, the only one that I didn't get to, the only one that we haven't discussed or been introduced to is the replacement of the artificial turf at Veterans Memorial Stadium. We budgeted $500,000 for that. The turf at this point, right today, is safe. It's a little bit unsightly because of the UV degradation of the green top on the grass. But as of this moment right now, it's perfectly safe, but it has been creeping towards the unsafe limit. What's called the GMAX has been rising ever since the field was put in. Safe level is GMAX of 200, and we're approaching a GMAX of 160 right now. So by the time we put specs together and bid it this coming winter and do the replacement next summer, that would be the summer of 2018, we would expect to pay $500,000 for that project. And that would be the end of my list of projects.
Any questions for Mr. Franz? Councilor Bono?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Mr. Franz, thank you for all your help on everything. The Veterans Memorial Stadium, new turf, how long is the duration? How long does that last for? If you put it down, if it's appropriated tonight, how long is it going to last? And, the lifespan of it?
We would put down the same product that we put down at Creed just this past year. And we generally get a warranty of about 8 years on it, but the advertised life, the industry norm would be 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
And we're coming up on 11 years at Veterans Stadium. By the time we replace it, it would be 11 and a half years old.
Sure, I'm very familiar with that stadium. I played many games in the old stadium where they had the track that went around it and the grass turf, and then you went to 11. So it's 11 years since we've had the artificial turf on there. And you said usually it's the lifespan of about. Now the material, is it a little different than what we have on there now?
Yes.
Okay. Was the lifespan supposed to be 11 years, or were we over that time zone for the last turf that's on there presently?
The turf that's on there presently, we're right on schedule.
Right on schedule. So this is a good time for the transition to put the new turf in and
yes,
and have a lifespan of, you said 10 to 12?
10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay. That's all the answers to the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Franz.
Paul, Ms. Franz, are you going to walk us through this slide presentation that we have in front of us?
I'm not. I think Councillor Laforest is going to run through the Maritime Center presentation.
Okay. Are you going to do it from the podium or your seat or from the balcony? We have options.
Good evening. I have with me this evening Lieutenant Bob Gillen from the Quincy Police Marine Unit, whose office is based out of the Housneck Maritime Center and has been my team project manager on this project. So we're going to give you a little bit of a site history. I gave for you two packets. One is the PowerPoint presentation we're about to deliver, and second is the flood map, because when you see that in the JPEG, it's very hard to see on the screen, and then from the GIS, the property record cards for the different properties in question. So that's the second packet that will not be up on the screen. There we go. So the history of Housneck, we're just going to start in the early 1900s. Oh my. So you can see black and white photos. Floating has always been important to us Housneck residents. And back in the early 1900s, Housneck was a tourist destination. It was more like the Cape. You can see the steamboat would bring tourists. We had a lot of hotels and a lot of fun things to do. So a lot of multi-generations of boaters through the years. But this has always been the location, the public landing here in Housneck on Bayview Ave. So this is how we have this today. I think we have a PowerPoint today. So just for a point of reference here, I'm going to kind of with the laser pointer. So this here, the long pile-driven dockway, we call the PL, the public landing. And when they've been down the neck, jumps the PL. This is what we are talking about. Long gangway here with a float at the end. The boat ramp in the middle, we call these the Maritime Center floats. Some people call them the Hurley floats. Some people call them the police floats. They are public floats. They do belong to the Maritime Center property. We have our Maritime Center building. We have kind of, this here is what we're going to talk about. So when you come to, it's the Louis parking lot. When you come down C Street, you're going to come up here. This is the fairway for the boat ramp. You can see it's very, very tight with this house here. So house number 1, house number 2, house number 3. And this is the parking lot for the trailer. So this is a state-owned trailer lot. The Maritime Center building, state-owned. the ramp the state owns this kind of maritime center facility. The public landing itself is municipally owned. So current functions, what do we have happening down at the Maritime Center? Primarily it's utilized as a boat launch ramp. And we'll talk in trailer parking. We'll talk about its central location in Boston Harbor. Quincy has 2,000 boats registered to its waters. We have 6 private marinas and 5 yacht clubs. A lot of the boaters, similar to myself, 18-foot center console, you put your boat in once for the season, you drop it on your mooring. During any storms coming through, you're probably pulling it out once in the fall. That's kind of the typical Quincy boat ramp user. We have the Harbor Master office there. The Harbor Master isn't a staffed office, but they do have a physical office in the space. The Marine unit and the Scuba unit mostly have their equipment storage there. We'll talk about the facility, but down in the basement is where we have a lot of water infiltration issues, a lot of moisture issues, and we have a lot of our dive gear. So you would think, hey, dive gear, it's okay for that to get wet. Not the quality of gear that we have, not our very expensive sonar equipment, some of their equipment needs. Command post. So we'll see some slides here where the Maritime Center has been used for emergency response planning. Lieutenant Phil, so you can jump in at any point too. One of the slides that you're going to see is a maritime emergency that was staged. So just like the Miracle on the Hudson, Logan Airport, Quincy's within the flight path of Logan Airport, so we simulated what would ever happen if there was a plane crash in Boston Harbor or Quincy Bay, how would we respond, how would all of our agencies get together. And the Maritime Center was used as the staging area for that, one of the staging areas for that incident. We'll talk about that. The community room, so boating safety classes. Quincy has some of the most popular boating safety classes within the Commonwealth. I myself use it for neighborhood meetings quite frequently. The animal shelter, we have given use of the space. The Girl Scouts meet there each week. So we have open access to a lot of different organizations. When Quincy Yacht Club was closed, all of their meetings were there, Vets Day organizations there, and then other, not only our own municipal law enforcement, as well as some other agencies use the community room for some of their trainings. Okay. How it came to be. So when back in the 90s when the coastal economy was tanking and Quincy was working in collaboration with cleaning up Boston Harbor and Quincy Bay, the public access, the concern was this would be developed in condos and public access would be limited. So I have to give a shout out to my colleagues in the City Council at the time, representing Ward 1, the Council President Peter Colson, and at-large councilors also living in Ward 1, Mike Cheney and Paul Harold, were part of the team working with the state relative to the site acquisition by the MDC to ensure public access continued from this facility. So since it was owned by MDC, we had an MOU with the City of Quincy, and basically when I took office and read it, I thought, oh, this is a golden ticket. It says that then DCR was financially responsible for the maintenance. However, read the fine print, and that's pending any appropriation. So the funding never came. So in 1999, the Hurley floats were funded, I believe, received a grant from the Coughlin Trust. The public landing and repair decking, we did some fundraiser, over 10 years ago, probably closer to 15 years ago at this point. Then we came on, we were looking for different funding sources. We replaced the public landing and some piling repairs with some community preservation funds. We received a grant in the summer 2013 from this Division of Marine Fisheries, and that was just a revetment. A lot of the erosion was breaking away in the gangway to the Maritime Center float. After the tough winter, we had a lot of ice damage. The pilings, I mean, you can literally put your hands, they were assisted together, you put your hands through them. The decking became detached from the actual public landing, from the pilings. It's been a real struggle of band-aids for duct tape on the public landing. One of the things we are grateful for the ramp maintenance is the DPW is regularly down there for us, making sure that they're pressure washing the ramp and keeping that clear of any growth. Okay, so here's the boat ramp. I don't know who around the well here are boaters, so a little bit, I guess, education. So you'll see up here on the first slide a trailer launching. You can see it's a single access. A lot of the boat ramps have, one will launch and one will retrieve kind of simultaneously with the width of the ramp. Our ramp in particular is very narrow. You can see the length of the ramp at low tide. So this is the current conditions. This is a reality check of life at the boat ramp and housing act. You can see the bottom sections are broken away. This is a real public safety hazard and why we've been working so hard to get funding to repair the actual ramp itself. So this is what you're going to be seeing for ramp construction this season. That funding is secured from Seaport Economic Council, but this is just a rendering as to what to expect for reimbursement of our ramp. Okay, so the location of the boat ramp, and this is why this is such a priority. As you see, that this is, I don't know how we're familiar here with, no, where's my little laser pointer? But you can see the numbers on the slide. So in the upper middle, number 1, that's Winthrop, that's a DCR ramp. They have a lot of the same issues. The lieutenant and I did a field trip over there. They have some of the same issues that we're experiencing, same problems with DCR, with funding and maintenance. Number 2 is up in Chelsea. Number 3 is no longer on the map. That's the Dorchester gas tanks by Old Colony Yacht Club. After 9/11, that ramp was closed for homeland security reasons. So you can see, in the Boston Harbor area, as far as public access, a lot of the marinas and yacht clubs have their own ramps, but as far as the boating public, there's very limited access. So number 4 is us. Number 5 is Weymouth along the Back River, DCR facility, best in the area. Number 6 is at Hingham, the bathing beach, right on 3A. And number 7 is at Sunset Pier, 8th Street in Hull. So when you look at the chart of the Boston Harbor and the Boston Harbor Islands, you see we're very limited as to how we can get the boating public onto the water. This is just maybe a more general view. If you're taking off out of Logan, kind of what you'd see with the Harbor Islands. Jump in, jump on in. Your slides are coming up next in a day. So I'll just do the kind of the arrows here. Well, I'll give the first upper arrow is the Boston Police Pier, and during the maritime emergency planning exercise, what we've determined is to get any emergencies or any victims to the Boston hospitals is the priority. Quickest way to get that is to transport them on the water, bring them to Pier 10, where we have the Boston Ambulance Services lined up for transportation. Quincy Bay, the middle area, is Wallaston Beach. I believe a lot of my colleagues were invited to attend this exercise. And you can see our location is the lower arrow, is the Maritime Center. So here we have the exercise during progress. This larger vessel on the left was simulating the airplane. This is the police pulling up. You see the overhead, and I believe that's Boston Fireboat, which actually, for the on-water major operation, they had command of the scene. The picture on the right is all of the responding agencies. So you can see there's a lot to coordinate. You don't think about on-water emergencies, but this is the reality of who's responding and a little bit of what the needs are. Okay, go ahead. I was trying to move this on a lot. All right, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Members of the council, thanks for having me up here again. I'm Bob Dillon, Lieutenant with the Marine Unit, Deputy Harbor Master under Chief Keenan. As Councillor Laforest said, in order to test the viability of the site, because the site is designated as a federal staging area for equipment for maritime emergency response, that type of response would include aircraft disaster, ferry disaster, pollution response. So in order to do an area exercise to allow all our federal, state, and municipal partners to train together, we simulated the Miracle of the Hudson incident, where a plane would come out of Logan, possibly have a bird strike. The captain would have to make a split-second decision. As you can see, due to the large expanse, open area, Quincy Bay would be a desirable site if, unfortunately, you had to ditch an aircraft. So in order to simulate that, next slide. What we did was we took a Coast Guard cutter, the black vessel you see there, and we loaded it up with Army Reserve volunteers, and we simulated that that was an aircraft that had just ditched coming out of Logan. As you can see, slide to the right, we had approximately 41 agencies responding on the water. These agencies ran the spectrum from the federal agencies right down to state police, and of course all the municipal police departments and harbor masters. And what we found from that particular drill, it opened up the eyes of a lot of the federal planners and two of the planning committees within the Port of Boston, that the Maritime Center in Quincy could very successfully serve that purpose. And we have actually drilled it since then, and we did use it on a minor level for some two ferry incidents we had within the last 5 years. In addition to that, as Councillor Laforest said, we use the Maritime Center for our underwater recovery team, the police dive unit. You can see the divers going down there, going aboard the Quincy Police Guardian. If you look at the slide on the right, you can see 5 vessels there. Those 5 vessels were training for the upcoming Sail Boston event. So luckily we can use the Maritime Center for the onshore training portion of it, and then we can get all the boats together and go out in the harbor and practice the actual response.
Okay, so here goes the facility conditions. All of you here speak flood maps and storm events. You see the sandbags by the door. This is the door that accesses all of the Quincy Police equipment and gear. Bob, you want to talk about what that entails?
The equipment and gear?
That you've got in this.
The equipment, due to our investments, port security grants, we have approximately $6 million worth of underwater recovery gear that's housed in that particular facility. We use, in addition to using that particular gear for underwater recovery, we also use it proactively. Like right now, in anticipation of the Tall Ships event, the Quincy Police Department is using that gear to develop an underwater map of Boston Harbor, which we're going to give to the Coast Guard so we can plan the Sail Boston event to prevent any, or actually deter any acts of terrorism. We want to know ahead of time what's underwater, what's in the piers right now. In addition to that, we send that unit, like today we got a request for that unit to go down to Franklin to search for the lost individual. So we've been lucky to procure this particular gear from the federal government through port security grants. We have it down there, but as you go, you can see the building's in tough shape. That picture on the left is very representative of what the corrosion of 50 years being in a salt environment has done to the building. We've had engineers look at the building. Those structural numbers really can't be repaired.
And of course, this is one of my favorite topics, the flood map. So what I've outlined is the parking lot portion of the property of Baby Lab, and underneath the yellow you can see in the velocity in the striped zone. You probably better see this. This is what you also have as a printout. That's the actual Houseneck Maritime Center is in the velocity zone. So when we talk about homeowners who want to make home repairs, FEMA has a rule in the building code. If you are making repairs that exceed 50% of the value of your structure, you must make said structure FEMA compliant. So a homeowner owns a house, $300,000. The house itself maybe is an older bungalow. The value of the structure might be $100,000. You're putting in a new kitchen, you can elevate your house and make it flood compliant. So the municipality, we're not exempt. We are within the velocity zone, and part of our MEPA review that has been completed about this asks what you're going to do. We could grandfather the footprint, elevate it up on pilings out of the velocity zone as far as rebuilding the Maritime Center, but like the lieutenant said, the repairs are not a viable option for the physical Maritime Center building. One of the locations, one of the uses of the Maritime Center, one of my favorite uses, is some of the public events that were hosted there. So here I think a lot of you have attended is the Chowder Fest, and I should recognize in the audience is Jim McCarthy, past president of the Houseneck Houseneck Community Council, as well as past chairman of the Chowder Fest. So we have a great time. We were able to bring a lot of people out on the Quincy Police boat for boat rides that day. It's a great day in our community. It's really a big Houseneck reunion. One of our other favorite Houseneck events is Vets Day. This is where the Boston Harbor Lobstermen's Association takes vets out for a day fishing on the water. This is cited. This typically we partner with Quincy Yacht Club. Quincy Yacht Club has been closed the past few years. They've utilized the Maritime Center, and because of ADA compliance, it's very difficult to get ADA compliance on boating facilities. But the Houseneck Maritime Center is probably the easiest access. You can see the difference in the grade of variation to the public landing ramp on the right, but that is where the boaters typically stay on the floats where the lobster boats are, and the kids swimming and hang out on the public landing floats. So we give a little space there. So what is it we're going to need for this next generation public landing? Our boat ramp and floats, we have funding secure. We've recently procured those. Parking and trailer parking. So we're going to get a little bit into the depths of the trailer lot because that's where 3 of the homes are amidst this trailer parking lot. I don't know how many of you have driven a boat with a trailer. but it is quite difficult. So some like me have the luxury of my husband will drive the truck and the trailer. I'll drive the boat over to the house, put it on the mooring, and the truck and the trailer go home. Those that don't want to go on the water for the day, you get to park it in the trailer lot. It's very difficult to navigate the way that we have it set up right now. And it's, in particular, the concern that we've heard is, you know, when you have the longer trailer spots and then you have vehicles side by side, it makes it very difficult. So we're looking at better passenger vehicle parking, better trailer parking, maybe with pull-through, and then a better plan for pedestrians in the area. Police and fire boat parking, that's actually something we're talked about. You heard me mention to the chief, fire chief at budget time. So we're looking to kind of designate an area on the floats for this summer so that the fire boat can stay in the water. But we're looking for maybe a better layout and design because it faces due east at this location. So you typically today, if you're picking a location for your boat ramp, you would not face it due northeast, northeast. But be it that permitting a boat ramp is pretty difficult, even in a pre-existing condition, it's what we have to work with. Public landing, we're talking about something with better public access. You can see the tidal chains on the gangway. It's very difficult at low tide. And then the Maritime Center and the Community Center, the actual building facility. The Housing and Community Council actually just voted. They are currently located at 1193 C Street. Little fun fact that the Housing and Community Council, many of the board members are actually the founding members of Manor Community Health Center. So when that building was constructed, that was a great partnership. Manor has grown, the community center went from a building to a room, and space is tight and parking is tight. So this is really an opportunity for the next generation community center. As you know, House Neck is a very strong neighborhood with strong programming, whether it's senior programming, children's programming, adult programming. The Housing Community Council is very active, and so we're excited about working with them on the design to meet their needs. And of course, the water access. So here we are for land acquisition. So again, each of these parcels you have from the GIS, the property record. What is going to be difficult is that what you would think are one parcels on GIS is divvied up into a few parcels. Okay, here we go. All right, so on the laser pointer, here's the Maritime Center building. Across from here, this is the Cross House. And in particular, this property is in the velocity zone with the new map change. And then this is the fairway. So you come down C Street, and then you're going to come up here, and then you're going to back your boat in, is the flight path today. So the fairway is very, very tight, everybody will tell you. So that is a particular problem property for us here. The other issue is some of the utilities here. A lot of the boats, particularly Quincy Yacht Club boats, some of the bigger boats that the members have, they can't bring them over land because of the height of the utilities. But when they launch them here, they can bring them right back out to the yacht club. But why make it just easy for the Quincy Yacht Club boaters? All of those would like to be able to get in and out of the trail lot to bury the utilities. We have here the Howe House and the Coffee House. This is Bayview Ave. Bayview Ave is very narrow in this section. And the thought would be we'd have an opportunity to bury the utilities, widen Bayview Ave, and change the flight path of the topography. This then would then be deemed the trailer lot. The Louis parking lot would be geared towards the passenger vehicles. We do not, you're going to see a couple of renderings of the trailer lot. We do not have a final design game plan. That's what we are now. We are working with Time Bond as our engineering firm, Westling as our architect. So on the right, you're going to see the, just what it would look like with those houses gone and very minimal landscaping. Again, one of the issues that we're really having is there's a lot of blacktop, and House Neck, we have a very active garden club. We like really, some green space. We want to make this a beautification project. And this is, while it's just a quick look, is not what we're looking to do. In particular, the topography of this site, the Bayview Ave side is much higher than the C Street side, and one of the ideas we had is to level the trailer lot and then make it almost like terrace gardens. Because we have such stormwater issues in this area, we have a broken outfall, we have issues with the seawall. At Quincy Yacht Club, we're looking for an opportunity. In particular, I saw Joe here earlier, he's still here, is what we can do as a municipality when we're looking for our community rating system, how we can make improvements in the floodplain. And so we see this as an area of the watershed for this whole neighborhood. And like I said, you have that printout with an expanded flood map to show you, give you an idea. So trailer parking, traffic flow, widen the street, bury the utilities, stormwater management, and some traffic calming measures. This again is just another rendering we're trying to simulate as that vehicle comes off the boat ramp, what's the best game plan. Again, no decisions been made on this. This is kind of just different takes. This was a rendering that we looked at with taking the Maritime Center building, again, not saying we're taking this L shape, we're just using a footprint, but the ADA compliance is something that we have to figure out. So we had talked about whether we keep the floats we did for Vets Day, whether we build a public access. So this is more like what you would have seen at the Quincy Shipyard ferry dock with the kind of come back around because you need to meet the grade. That, with the amount of sets we have, is just not going to work, and so we're just looking at alternatives. Just another perspective. We had talked about what we can do for public access, and one of the thoughts would be kind of a wraparound deck, giving people the opportunity for that passive recreation. It's a great place. People like to come down. We've got a little ice cream shop down the street, how many scoops, or come to Louie's, bring your lunch, sit out down here. You just kind of a thought of how we can green up the area and get as much utilization for public access. So here's the money. Here's the money slide. This is what we've received to date. And so this is myself and the lieutenant and the mayor working with the different agencies. So like I had mentioned before, we had an MOU with D.C.R. They said, oh, we have these 50,000 planning grants. Well, we wrote one. They promised us funding. And as soon as the Baker administration took office, they said, hey, we have this pending file. Well, how come you haven't taken your money? So we're very grateful to them for an application that sat on the shelf for quite a long time. It was a $50,000 when you spend, renewable to $100,000. That's a planning and engineering grant that we have ongoing. That was for the feasibility of the center. The Maritime Center. The 680 is the Seaport Economic Council. That is boat ramp construction funds. Seaport is a leverage grant. It's a 4-to-1 match, and we were able to leverage some of the grants I'm going to reference now towards our match. $250,000 is money, the second grant from the Seaport Economic Council, and that is for design and permitting of the Maritime Center itself. I will give a shout out to Mayor Koch, who is now a board member of the Seaport Economic Council, and I have to say we're really beating the drum. There's a lot of coastal spending that happens throughout the Commonwealth, and Quincy is not getting its fair share of funding, and so we said, how is it we get into the Seaport Economic Council? It's 11 designated ports in the Commonwealth, of which Quincy is one, yet Quincy was not a player, and Quincy didn't have a seat at the table. So again, a big thank you to the Baker and Polito administration for bringing Mayor Koch on board. This body supported $175,000, that's community preservation funding for the public landing, for the repairs to the landing. I talked about the decking being separated, the need to purchase new floats, the need to repair the pilings, and that's just been the Band-Aid money, but we're done with the Band-Aids. We just need a new facility to last, to be the boating hub for the next 100 years. We have another $25,000 community preservation. When we first filed, this is what started the Maritime Center project. When we first filed the original $50,000 with D.C.R., I said, well, in case there's not enough money, let's put a placeholder in. We did that, and good thing, because we were able to, with city funds, kickstart the project. Although the state, again, the MOU had them financially responsible, they weren't showing up with their money. We then had the $10,000 was the revetment repair and the acquisition of the gangway for the Maritime Center. My error on this, I believe it's Division of Marine Fisheries, not Division of Waterways. They're all D.C.R. agencies. So that's our funding that we've leveraged, over $1 million to date for this project. We anticipate filing another Seaport Economic Grant that'll be, I'm sure, in excess of $1 million once we are completed with the architect to construct the Maritime Center. So we'll get the design funding from them, and we'll be applying for their August deadline for Maritime Center building. To do this whole project, we do need to put the parcels together to make it all work. Again, it's that flow and accessibility that makes it come together. And if you've been down there and been on site, you'd understand that. And if you haven't, I do, myself and the lieutenant, invite you down anytime. With that, we'll take any questions. And I know Solicitor Timmons is going to talk about the legalities of the land acquisition. It might be best to have him if there's no questions.
Solicitor Timmons? Solicitor Timmons?
So,
thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
We do have, just for the record, I believe has been put in your packet, a lot of letters of support that have come in that we've received and have held these 4 or 5 community meetings at this point relative to different phases of this project. So that this project is not without controversy. This project does have strong community support. There are some in the audience here this evening in support and some of those in opposition. I'll tell you that similar to when we put the track in, I think now that the track's done and people visualize it, they see it as a great recreational asset for the city. And the same with North Quincy with the Hunt Street project. Some things tough to visualize, and now that you see it's done, you can't imagine not having had it. This is a facility, like I said, that's been the hub of community voting for over 100 years, and we want to see that continue. So for your attendance.
Madam President, members of the council, just briefly, the process here would be as follows. There are two things to look at. The provision of our charter in regard to purchase of real estate, and then the provisions of Chapter 30B, which regulate both the disposition and acquisition of property. In this particular instance, the way that the mayor has, upon consultation, the way the mayor has concluded we should proceed is that we're looking at these parcels as unique parcels. You understand from the presentation of Councillor Laforest why we would say that, their particular location and the functionality that they will serve. So for that reason, what we intend to do is work within an exemption under Chapter 30B. We'll be filing some disclosures with the state in regard to the lots that are involved, why we regard them to be unique, and why we're looking to acquire them. And those disclosures have to be filed prior to entering into any agreement. And that's assuming that all of this moves through this body. Once those disclosures are filed, we'd be able to enter into agreements. I know that the administration's done some preliminary discussion in concert with the ward councilor, Councillor Laforest, with some of the involved property owners, so they understand what's at stake here. And there's been a little bit of talk of numbers, but we're essentially working off the numbers that you see in the assessors database for now. At that point, as the deal would then come together, in talking with various councils, I know Councillor Finn has always had a concern that not only are you involved in the appropriation, the financial process, but that you would like to have a look at the actual transaction itself and the opportunity to approve that. In talking with Councillor Palmucci about this, he's looking to propose an amendment, and I'll let him explain that, whereby we're the council to approve the financing, and then when we went through the steps I just outlined, we would be coming back before you at the time when the particular transactions were ready to proceed and presenting you with the particulars. One of the concerns that Councillor Finn expressed on prior occasions was that although the council's informed generally about the numbers, you're not aware of the particulars at the time the transaction proceeds. Well, I believe that Councillor Palmucci's fashioned a remedy in the form of his proposed amendment to address that situation, and we'd be happy to work with the council in the fashion that I believe will be proposed this evening. So the process, the discussion and the due diligence has been underway for a while. The legal process, it's not all that difficult, and we'll move forward with those parameters in mind. The body is considering this evening authorizing a certain amount of money to be used toward the transaction, and then that would allow us to move forward with a negotiation with the parties. Frankly, the administration can't do anything until they know that there's money available to do it. So what would happen is authorization of funding, negotiation with the parties, the deals will come together, They'll come together in compliance with the provisions of Chapter 30B. And once that happens, we would then be back before you before closing on the deals. That's it. Sure. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yeah, Jim, just one question that I was wondering about is, and again, forgive my ignorance in relation to these things, but Chapter 40, Section 14, does that apply to this, or is that different?
Well, that's the charter provision. Chapter 40 is essentially the ordinance that provides for charter provision. Right. That's in our charter. So that's what I'm talking about.
But the Section 14 says that it can't be, if it's 125%, it can't be 125% or more. Are we going to do that in line with that?
Right. And yes, and we actually have that particular provision and those numbers in mind here.
All right.
And we'll be working with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's very easy though.
I thought we had already discussed it.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
This in no way, an authorization as currently drafted or currently amended 2017-50, that wouldn't in any way be this council authorizing an eminent domain taking, correct? And could not be construed as such, right?
Would not authorize what?
It's not an eminent domain taking. It's not a take.
That's correct.
Right? It is not a hostile. We would not be authorizing a hostile taking, right?
Correct. What would happen would be this, that once we understand what's authorized as far as the finances, we'll then attempt to work by way of agreement with the parties involved. If there's a breakdown and eminent domain is the only option, we might come back, were that to occur, we'd be coming back to report to you. But so far, that has not happened to us. And, I'm not sure. The mayor previously, I know on the Hunt Street project, he'd said he didn't want to use the eminent domain right. And no one wants to get on him taking property. My understanding is the due diligence of the property owners is in place. So.
Okay. I think it's important to just note that we're all in agreement that this in no way authorizes
this is an attempt to get a cooperative, transaction in place.
Okay. Thank you.
But again, if it goes back to the charter specifically, if it exceeds that 125%, there could be a breakdown in negotiations.
Yes, well, you're right about the charter provision, and there is a little issue there, because it specifically says that if you go beyond the 25%, then it shall be done by eminent domain.
Right.
So we do understand that issue is there, and we're going to have to address that if it arises.
Which means that in terms of this overall project, there'd have to be some attempt to define this in terms of as a public good to justify the eminent domain, right?
Well, that's true, yes, of course, in any eminent domain proceeding, right. Oh.
Just to clarify, myself and the mayor had preliminary meetings with all of the property owners, or myself and the mayor, or just the mayor, and we are not looking to utilize the eminent domain procedure. This is something that, if they are willing sellers, otherwise, like the YMCA parking lot, we'll just work it right around them. That's why we have not progressed our design of the site plan forward without the land acquisition piece in play. But we will not, this is not an eminent domain project.
But again, if I could, because I really want to stress what I'm saying is that under the charter, if there's an issue that relates to the actual what they're getting based again on the assessments over the last few years or whatever, then you do have a key issue here, because then there's no question in my mind that this is anything about eminent domain. But what I'm saying is that the charter is very clear. And so if people's asking prices or what they're seeking kind of exceeds that, you need to be back before the council.
There are a couple of, within eminent domain, there are a couple little subheadings. There's confirmatory takings, there's friendly takings. So one of the things that may occur is if we're in a situation that we're in agreement, but the numbers aren't working right, what primarily will have to happen is that additional appraisals will have to occur. That's really the basis for the eminent domain provision in our charter, is it triggers a process which ensures that the fair market value is paid. So what would happen is if we get up to that 25% ceiling and it's coming into play, there'll be additional appraisals done and there'll be a presentation made that will refine a little further why what's being paid is being paid, and it would be a so-called friendly taking. It wouldn't be an adversarial.
But it would still require a vote back before this body in relation to authorize that price.
Say that again, please?
It would require a vote back before this body to authorize that amount.
Prior to anything, yes.
Prior to that being.
It has to be a presentation.
And it would require 2/3 vote of the council? Would it require a 2/3 vote of the council under?
Yes, yeah. Eminent domain is 2/3, correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Lee.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess Councilor first. Thanks for your presentation. I just have a question for you on the appraisal. So the totals from both of these packets, based off of the current appraised value, brings us to $2,007,000, but the appropriation request is for $2,750,000. Is there a reason for? Well, sure. Just explain the reason for that difference.
Sure. I also included the actual property that DCR owns, and so we are in works with DCR to probably transfer ownership. I just included that into your packets if you're doing the math. That's in there. A few of the properties have multiple parcels pieced together, so I don't know that that would be how they would genuinely be appraised, right? So that, for example, the Louis parking lot, there's two on the GIS, there's two pieces together. The other one is LeBrec, is I believe included in the is in the same line item. So for those of you with familiar with the LeBrec parking lot, it's not the LeBrec parking lot, it's the Holy Trinity Most Blessed Sacrament Parish parking lot. The neighborhood uses it like we own it, and it's become quite a junkyard and a headache of one of my probably most frequent complaints. But by all means, if the Archdiocese were to sell it, its own Residence A, and we've broken up into a lot of house lots, and we would have a landlocked public park. The public park is a very point of pride in Howes Neck, home of the Howes Neck Manics, former Howes Neck T-ball. There's been softball league plays there. We've got basketball courts. We have a playground, and a lot of community events that occur there as well. So the public parking lot has always been utilized by the public in shared partnership with the church, and so that this is an opportunity that's been long talked about, that most people think it's a public parking lot, utilize it as if it's a public parking lot, and we'll bring this on to the public, and we'll keep it from being developed in the future.
Thank you. And then just for, so the last slide that's up there, the grant funding that's been received thus far, is this funding, is there anything left in this funding to that extent? And
yep, so the 600, sure. So this, in Madam Auditor, we can review line by line, but the 680 Seaport Economic Council is the boat ramp construction. Right now that's in permit phase. We expect that construction to happen this summer. We have not scheduled that. We're going to kind of wait and hear when the permit comes through, get our bids in, and figure it out in the timeline, whether we're doing it during the boating season, at the end of the season. We'll be talking to the boating public about that. So that is in the account waiting to be spent. The $250,000 Seaport Economic Council for design and permitting of the Maritime Center is under contract with Time Bond, with Leslie as the architect. That is currently being spent, but there's funding in the account. The community preservation funding, I believe, has fully been expended. There's two separate grants so actually there was 3 community preservation grants for the public landing. So the 175 fully expended, the 25 was the cross match, the DCR grant fully expended, the 10,000 did the ramp repairs, and the gangway acquisition fully expended.
Okay, and the first one, the 100,000 DCR grant for engineering and design, is that hasn't been funded yet, or it has?
So that's currently being spent down in partnership with the design and site work.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. One's a reimbursable grant, they're just spending money that's coming back in, so we're utilizing the two grants offsetting each other.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Any money's out there, we're going to get it. Thank you. Anyone else wishing?
I just have one question for the solicitor, Jim, if you don't mind. It's a long commute back and forth, I know. Oh, I know. I saw him going back. I'm like, oh, gosh. Yeah. Good evening, Jim. Please excuse my lack of experience in the whole property acquisition. Thank you. But obviously, I've sat up here and seen us go through, another iteration of this, and I know in the aforementioned Hunt Street, which, probably could have went a little bit better, I'm sure, in hindsight. But my question is with this, and I don't know the answer, but you mentioned like the valuations, and I was trying to follow what Council Finn was saying. Per Mass General Law, basically you have to be within 125% of the appraisal number, right?
Yes.
In order for it, so.
Well, you're supposed to take the prior 3-year appraisals, average them, and then not exceed 25% of that number. So hypothetically, if the average of the prior 3-year appraisals were $100,000, and if we work out a deal where we're buying for $125,000 or less,
we're good.
Then we're all set. If not, then the eminent domain process is supposed to be followed, and there are a few thought processes about why.
Sure. So I'm just wondering, like, and this is the part I don't know, like, why aren't the valuations typically done before the financial ask? So you have a better idea as.
Why aren't they being done before?
Correct.
Well, the reason is that this is all expensive. Like, one of the things that happened on Hunt Street, we were talking about 10 homes.
Right.
Now, one appraisal, $4,000, so times 10, that's 40. The eminent domain proceeding requires 3 appraisals. So that kicks costs up quite dramatically, very quickly. And frankly, that's really the sole reason why on prior occasions we've worked so hard to negotiate sale prices with parties. And they do so on an informed basis. This isn't any sort of, we're not taking advantage of anyone or anything, but it's much better to get these things done by agreement, and it's more costly if you don't. And then the other issue with eminent domain is hypothetically the party can come back and file a lawsuit and seek further money, because when you do it by way of agreement and you have a conveyance under an agreed transaction, everything's closed down. The eminent domain proceeding doesn't necessarily close things down, which is why we want to try to do friendly takings.
Right. I'm not even at mentally the eminent domain piece. I'm more at the, phase 1, which is, to your point, if we use your numbers, you have $4,000 per appraisal, right? You have 3 properties that you're looking at.
Well, that was on Hunt Street, right?
Okay, so $5,000 per appraisal. You have 3 properties that you're looking at, right? It's $15,000, but then you're able to establish your baseline, right, for each property. What basically you could go up to 125% of that value before you get into those eminent domain. I'm just saying, why don't we proceed in that fashion so that we know?
Have that baseline. Let me just answer this one. We have that baseline. It's in the appraisal database. Like all the properties, we know what the city's been valuing them at.
So the GIS, right?
well, no, the appraisal database, GIS is a little different, but same thing, yeah. So we know what the values are, and we work off of those values. Those are the numbers that we've started with. We've talked about what some of those values are, but then there's also, we have a number of appraisals. You know, when the Furnace Ave transaction was done in Ward 4, we had I had 3 or 4 different appraisals from different transactions in the city that had open space valuations that were available to us. So we have appraisal data, private appraisal data, available now that has been used by the folks who are working on this, and we have the appraisal data from the assessor's office. So there are numbers out there, and the thought process you have is something that we are following. It's just not through the eminent domain mechanism.
Okay. We digest that. We'll come back to this at the end of the finance, but thank you for your input. Any further questions from the council regarding this? Okay. So, Councilor Palmucci?
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to move to amend. Everyone's looking at me, so I assume this is the appropriate time.
Well, we're going to come back. We're going to start from the top and kind of work our way back down. Council Order 2017-50. We'll go.
So I can either amend it now or amend it at the end, whatever you have a preference.
Go for it.
Okay.
Sure.
So
We'll bring it back at the tail end. Well, these are sequentially alphabetized under one council order. So we're going to go back and start at A, and then go B, C, and we'll end up at D where we are now. The reason we're talking about this, obviously, is because we ran out of steam at the last Finance Committee meeting, so the presentation needed to be made.
I can wait to the end to make
sure.
the amendment. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if folks picked that up, but we're looking at Council Order 2017-50, and as I mentioned, they're all alphabetized, so A, B, C, D. We'll go through each one. I know the representatives for each letter are in the attendance, are in the audience. So if we have questions or we want to discuss it further, we can do so, and then we'll take a vote on each letter, and then come back and take a cumulative on the actual order number. So with that, first letter up is $15.7 million for the construction of the Hancock Adams Green. And I see Mr. Shea out there. I know you gave the original presentation. I don't know if folks have additional questions regarding this. Comments?
I'm sorry.
Councilor DeBona?
I'm just a little confused. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get some order here with clarification and everything. What are we going to vote at line item A and then B, then C, D, or we're going to talk about all of them and then?
Well, we've had an opportunity to discuss through it. I don't know if councils have digested this to a point. Again, all the subject matter experts are in the audience, so we'll go line by line, and then we'll come back because it's all under one order, and take a final go through. So again, first.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready for these votes.
Okay. Any discussion on the first one, letter A, 15.7 million. There's a motion to approve by Councilor Laforest. We don't need a second because we're in committee. Any discussion on the motion?
Point of order.
Yeah.
Are we actually in committee? We voted this issue out of committee, I thought, to consider it, because I don't think we continue.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yep, point taken. So we do need a second. Councillor Harris. All right, so there's a motion to approve by Councillor Forrest, seconded by Councillor Harris on item A. Any discussion? Councillor DeBona.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we have it at A and B, but I'd like to overlap. I'd just like to make a statement first, and then it'll sum up this item for $15.7 million for the construction of the Adams Hancock Green. Actually, the Hancock Adams Green. I just want to put this into opening statement. Parks is an important element to the city of Quincy. I grew up here in Quincy. Parks, playgrounds, and playing sports was a vital role in shaping my life. Not only being educated here in the Quincy Public Schools, but playing sports and leisure activities on all these parks is why I'm currently talking to all of you tonight. Playing the youth sports like football, baseball, and basketball was a way of staying out of trouble. I played for various teams like the Quincy Point Panthers youth football team in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I now coach that same childhood team for the last 6 years as the varsity head coach for 7th and 8th graders. I played and coached on fields like Veterans Memorial Stadium, Forer Field, the Breck, Kavanaugh, Paget, and O'Rourke. I also played baseball for the Quincy Police of the Babe Ruth League, Morissette Legion, and Quincy High School baseball at Adams Field and Marymount Field. And I leisurely played basketball and street hockey at parks like the old Pollard Park, which is now the Clifford Marshall School. Today I bring my 3 young children at all the parks around the city. These parks are a way for me to spend time with my family and enjoy the outdoors. We love parks like Brill Field, Quarry Hills, and Faxon Park. We are fortunate enough to have places to go in the city of this size with 94,000 people. The hotel motel tax was established with the Home Rule petition in 2001. It is very important to understand that this funding source is not financed through the taxpayers of our city. This does not fall back on the taxpayers at all, not a dime. The Hancock Adams Green is a centerpiece and first look off the Quincy Center MBTA station, a gateway into our city. It also complements the new downtown redevelopment right outside here. Look outside these windows tonight. We've all been talking about this Hancock Adams Green for some years now. Who knew this day would come? How do we fund this? Like Mr. Walker in the administration said in previous council meetings, we took advantage of federal and state funding already. The mayor and the administration is looking to invest $15.7 million of hotel motel tax that doesn't fall back on the taxpayers of this city. I will be in support of this park improvement plan as well as this item on number A. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion, Councilor Kane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'll make a blanket statement too, not as eloquent as my colleague, but we just kind of went through a process where we, as a council, approved an amendment to the hotel motel tax for these uses thereof. And so I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is a spending bill that's $27 million for park improvements that from the get-go I've seen as a little too ostentatious, a little too grand. And, you know, the purpose of putting forward the amendment for the hotel motel tax was to, in effect, amend this extraordinary spending bill. So, you know, as we said, council meeting over council meeting, this isn't parks versus roads, but this is about identifying needs versus wants and setting a clear identification of priorities overall. I don't necessarily think that these reflect priorities, but I also don't know what actually are priorities most of the time to this administration. With respect to number A, Hancock Adams Green, I still think is a capstone project. I think we still have a lot of work to do downtown, and once that's done, we can put a cherry on top, which would be this. I think it looks great out there right now, and I think that $16 million is a ridiculous amount of money to put in a small space of land. So again, this isn't that I don't like parks. I think parks are great. I just think that $27 million for, 16 of which is going to be for the Hancock Adams Green is a little misguided, and I think could use some re-amending. But I don't see that going that way tonight, so I won't be voting for any of this as set forward tonight. Thank you.
just to kind of wrap it up, I guess, seeing no other comments from my fellow councilors. I spent a lot of time, like everyone else, thinking through this and, listening to Councillor, DeBona and his long-time memories growing up in the city and playing various sports throughout, different fields. I feel very strongly about the parks as well, and I feel that my work as a ward councillor could certainly back that up. Thinking through, and participating in various discussions, particularly over the last month or so, where, we're trying to work through, I guess, a dialogue where, what is indeed, the priority. And, it's something that I struggle with. I know my phone rings quite frequently with folks, expressing their, their concern about the roads. I don't want to make this about the roads, but, when I think through sort of the evolution of the downtown, I do, agree with Councilor Kane that, something should continue to evolve out front of, City Hall. I just feel like with some of the looming, priorities as they relate to, road infrastructure, it's just tough for me to get behind at this stage of the overall downtown development, an additional $16 million on top of, the 17 that's already invested in. I mean, that's, over $30 million, and that's, a lot of it paid for with federal and state subsidies and grants, which is awesome. But it's still a lot of money, knowing, a lot of the work that we have to do outside. And, again, I shared it with you in committee, but, knowing the amount of the spending packages that are on our desk right now, I mean, we're looking at north of $400 million, and Councilor DeBona had talked about a capital investment in the roads. That was last year. So I'm talking real time, $400+ million on our desk, and not a dollar tied for roads. So, I'm just trying to voice what, what's coming out of Ward 2 and my constituents, is on their top of mind. So, with that being said, I will not be supporting this as well. So, seeing any further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Kane?
No.
Councilor Crowe?
No.
Councilor DeBona?
Yes.
Councilor Finn?
No.
Councilor Harris? Councilor Laforest? Councilor Liang? Councilor Palmucci? President Hughes?
Yes.
5 minutes.
5,
I'm sorry.
3. That section of the order passes. Next item for discussion here is letter B, which is $6.15 million for park improvements citywide. I know that we're joined by Park Director Franz, who I think did a great job of kind of bringing us through, the iteration or all the park plans as presented. I don't know if folks have any further questions for Mr. Franz, but he's here. You good? A motion approved? Okay, motion made by Councilor Harris, second by Councilor Palmucci. Seeing no further discussion. Councilor DeBona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to elaborate just real quick on this subject because I elaborated a little bit for both A and B, but let me just talk a little bit about B real quick here. 6.15, which is going to be through the hotel motel tax, does not go back on the taxpayer again. You see, sometimes the public doesn't fully understand that. Sometimes it's not written in the paper correctly. And I'm not just saying that, but sometimes it just doesn't. And I get out there, and then they look at me like I have 10 heads, and they say, well, what are you doing approving something like that? But let's talk about it again real quick. The hotel motel tax does not go back on the taxpayer. It is a fund that is set up through a revenue source that we established in 2001 through a home rule petition amendment. So just to elaborate a little bit on just, my history up here, before I became on the council, before I became a school committee member, I spent 2 years on that Park and Recreation Board, where I learned a lot of vital things about the city of Quincy in 2012 and 2013. And I will tell you that in attest to when we had budget session, we had everybody out here from the Park and Rec Board, which has served with many of those members, and how important that parks are for this city. please understand that there's an opioid epidemic that's outside there, outside these halls, outside these doors, that we have to get to our children at an early age. You cannot consider the fact that, hey, listen, we have to do this in our 20s. We have to get to children at an early age to get them on these parks and to be playing with each other than on the street corner or playing video games. We have to get the kids in the parks, and that's why I feel that I have to be a vocal leader up here about these parks. And when this appropriation is put in front of me, especially this number B for the park improvement citywide, I feel that, and I also talked about it earlier, how important it is to have your family go there with you and spend time. I go outside the city a lot to shop for, whether it be suits or shirts or ties. I go outside the city. But the one thing that we do inside the city, and we do a fantastic job with this, is our parks and improving them continuously. This is a major improvement that will help out the opioid epidemic that we face in front of us today. And I will continuously talk about it as we have hearings stepping forward, but this is more than just about parks. This is more than just about, we're going to do this now when we think it's the right time. We have to establish a place for our children and our families to go to congregate together. Help out the Quincy Police and Quincy firefighters, EMTs, with this Narcan situation, with the opioid epidemic, because it goes hand in hand, it's together. So we need to start at an early age and get our kids over there. And with that, I'll be in full support of this line item number B tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeBona. On the motion, Councilor Kane. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to clarify what I believe, with all due respect, Councilor DeBona, is a misleading statement. This does, at the end of the day, fall on the taxpayer. Whether it's not immediate, there are future costs to each one of these items on this list. For the construction of the Hancock Adams Green, you'll have maintenance, you'll have cleanup, you'll have everything else, which falls on the dime of the taxpayer. That goes, all these projects are on the balance sheet of the city. Park improvements citywide. You mentioned this being a sort of direct correlation to fixing the opioid epidemic, which is a very dangerous, I think, correlation to make, considering that with resources such as $6 million, addressing that issue could be potentially better used to directly address it. A design and permitting phase of a master plan for Marymount Park, again, sounds very nice, but there are future costs that we don't see here for those design measures that we see here. So I just want to clarify that, while these costs immediate here may come out of the motel tax, or they're being leveraged to, the tune of $27 million, there will be future costs to all these projects. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any, Councilor Palmucci?
Thank you. I'm going to support this item, section B here, because it includes the dog park, and the money for the dog park, which I feel like I'd be barked out of town if I didn't. But I couldn't resist. But because it's important, a city of our size, we don't have a dog park. It's a long time coming. And I also think, perhaps much to the chagrin of dog owners across the city, I think once we have a fully functional dog park, we can then start policing our fields and getting dogs off of the other fields that are meant for sports. Can't tell you how many times I get calls about divots and other things that people step in on the fields, and I say, well, we don't have a place people can bring the dogs. Now we will. But I do, just for the record, want to say that I expressed this when we had us in the subcommittee meeting about the access point. I disagree with the access point coming off of Quarry Street. One, I think to pave a road that doesn't exist in our current infrastructure situation, where there are a lot of roads that exist already that need to be paved, is illogical to me. And then second, part of the mitigation in the discussion with Avalon for their project up there was that we would get access through Avalon in a better controlled intersection. And I know it's not signalized, but it's more visible to get access to a dog park there. So I'm disappointed by the location of it. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater here and vote against it, because I disagree with where it's going, the access point is going to be, because I think it's a far more important vote to take in favor, because it's a good project. I feel like I have to say that for the record, because when I get the calls from residents who are driving down Quarry Street and say, why the heck would you put the entrance right there? I could say, well, hey, I said that was a bad idea. Because I think it's going to be unsafe. I think that, where the exit's going to be is the roadway is right near the Sons of Italy. And someone who drives on that road multiple times a day, that is a bit of a blind corner there. I just think it's dangerous. So I hope, should this pass, should that project move forward, which I hope it does, I would just ask the administration to reconsider the access point, continue to see if it's not something we can do through Avalon or some other way in which we could make, if we have to do it on Quarry Street, we make it safer than what it potentially could be if we just drop a new street right there and leave it as a free-for-all. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor and Councilor Finn?
Again, this is one of the difficulties I have sometimes with these, large bonds that we put together with this stuff, because there's some things in it that are actually, I think, absolutely critical, and I do believe that upkeep of these particular parks that we're talking about in athletic fields is absolutely critical, and I would want to support that part of it 100%. And let that be known. Objections to the larger bond itself are not related to the very fact that I do believe money needs to be expended in order to preserve and protect the great gains that have actually been made, particularly with this administration in terms of upkeep of those fields. So, again, I will be voting yes for this particular provision.
Thank you, Council Finn. And, I concur with you. I'm also a park enthusiast as well, and we saw many folks throughout the public hearing come up here and, talk about the importance of, enhancing, repairing, rebuilding various parks throughout their wards, throughout their, districts, throughout their streets, etc. And I do think, knowing the intention of the hotel motel tax, that, part of that should continue to be used for investment in parks. You obviously know how I feel about roads, so I'm not really going to reiterate that. But I do want to just be clear in the way that I kind of approach this. It's a rather large ask, and no matter how the revenue source goes forward, the votes that are taken on any of this essentially commits or locks up, for lack of a better word, the money or the revenue for 15, 20, 25 years. So there is another component to it of, when we say it's not tied to the taxpayer directly, there's some validity to it, but there's also no access to these funds for, again, 15, 20, 25 years. So I just kind of wanted to be on the record to point that out. And seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Councilor King? No. Councilor Forrest?
Yes.
Councilor DeBona?
Yes.
Councilor Finn?
Yes.
Councilor Harris? Councilor Laforest? Yes. Councilor Liang? Yes. Councilor Palmucci? President Hughes?
Yes.
8 members.
8 members voting in the affirmative. That subsection of the order passes. Councilors, next on the agenda is item C, which is $2.4 million for the design and permitting for Marymount Park Master Plan. And obviously, Mr. Franz, and I believe there were a couple other gentlemen that had presented as well, but I'm assuming if we had any questions, it'd be directed towards you.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilor Hughes. Second by Councilor Laforest. Any discussion on the motion? Huh? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor King? No. Councilor Crowe?
No.
Councilor DeBona?
Yes.
Councilor Finn?
Yes.
Councilor Harris? Councilor Laforest? Yes. Councilor Liang? Yes. Councilor Palmucci?
Yes.
President Hughes?
Yes.
6 members.
6 members voting in the affirmative. That subsection of the order passes. The last and final item for this evening is $2.75 million for the acquisition related to the construction of the new Maritime Center in Houseneck and the parking lot at LeBrec Field. And Council Forrest gives presentation. Did you want motion to approve? Second. There was, I was going to, okay, withdraw your motion. Chair recognizes Councilor Palmucci.
To the big vote on 17-050.
Wasn't that part of this right here?
No, are we voting on D?
We are. But that wasn't that where your amendment was.
It's what it relates to, so I'll be happy to make it now if that's...
Okay. Yeah, you want to talk us through it? I'm curious.
Of course, but it's for the overall order.
Okay.
I'm amending the overall order.
Point of order, I think, given that understanding of it, then I think his initial instinct's the proper one, and we should probably just proceed with the vote if he's amending the overall order.
Okay, motion approved by Councilor Forrest, second by Councilor Hughes. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Finn?
Very clear. I'm not going to enter into the issue of the merits of the project at this particular point, but I am going to vote in opposition to this specifically because of my concerns, again, of kind of giving wholesale, what I consider to be wholesale acquisitions within the context of large bond issuances. And again, we've had some of these discussions before in the past, and yet things have proceeded, and oftentimes at great cost. So I'm going to be opposing D.
Any further discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councillor King. Councillor Crowe.
Yes.
Councillor DeBona.
Yes.
Councillor Finn.
No.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest. Yes. Councillor Liang. Councillor Palmucci. President Hughes.
Yes.
6 members.
6 members voting in the affirmative. Councilor Palmucci, want to put a bow around the council order with your proposed amendment here?
Yes. I amend 2017-50 to add as a new paragraph, any expenditure for the purchase of land must be approved, as to final amount, by separate vote of the city council. I'll hand it to you, Nikki. I'd love it if someone would second that. Thanks.
Any discussion on Councilor Palmucci's amendment to Council Order 2017-50?
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Any expenditure for the purchase of land must be approved as to final amount by separate vote of the city council. Just by way of explanation, this would just mean that the price needs to be approved by this body. We're approving arguably, the request is for a $27 million bond. The language in the bond essentially says they can use, the administration can use the $27 million for anything consistent with the bond. So if they decided to shift money over because they wanted to pay 10 times assessed value, there's nothing in this bond authorization. Is something in the charter perhaps, but there's nothing in this bond authorization that would require them to come back and ask our approval to pay, some higher amount than what they've projected. So this amendment would require the administration to come back for our approval of the final amount they've negotiated with homeowners prior to the transaction.
If I could, Councilor, and you could maybe just explain it to me. So no matter what, once they enter into a negotiated amount, that amount's coming back here before those properties are purchased with.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, through you to Councilor Palmucci, would you consider a friendly amendment that picks up at the end of yours and simply says, subject to the provisions of our city charter and Massachusetts general law?
Why would we add that?
Well, to make certain that any more than anyone else, we're making certain that we're doing it according to Hoyle as opposed to simply just giving property away.
I mean, I have no problem with that amendment. I'm just wondering what that friendly amendment is. So I'll accept that as a friendly amendment, which doesn't require any type of vote. So it's subject to?
Again, subject to the provisions of our city, of the Quincy City Charter and Massachusetts general law.
Okay. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Palmucci and Councilor, you second that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment to the overall bond authorization? Seeing none? Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Councillor Kane.
Yes.
Councillor Crowe.
Yes.
Councillor DeBon.
Yes.
Councillor Finn.
Yes.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest. Councillor Leehan. Councillor Palmucci.
Yes.
President Hughes. 9 members.
Thank you. All right, final, to kind of bring this all together because it is under one council order. The council order is 2017-50, and it is that the city of Quincy appropriate the sum of $27 million for the purpose of park improvements, including the development and improvement of land owned by the city for recreational facilities and/or acquisition of land by purchase for open space and park purposes. Said improvements obviously reflect the alphabetized letter that we went through. So we'll take one final vote on the overall aggregate total $27 million. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll. Oh, excuse me. You're right. We're voting on the overall appropriation of $27 million. We're coming back in this procedurally. So the subset alphabetized sections where to ask questions about each project, as I mentioned, propose cuts, don't propose cuts, and then we come back at the end and vote the actual bond order, which is 2017-50 in the aggregate of $27 million, because the amount never fluctuated. And I checked with the clerk, and procedurally, that's the procedure.
Point clarification. But if people voted no on certain parts, then how can they vote on the whole now?
They don't have to vote the whole.
Then how does it? Then okay.
I don't. We wouldn't. Makes no sense.
No, I actually, I'm sorry just to interject that. I actually have the same point of concern as Councillor Kane, because folks who voted yes and no on some, how does that reconcile?
Yeah.
I don't understand what the point would have been. Yeah.
Procedurally, right? Because there were separate orders.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to go through it, preemptively before.
They're not separate orders. They're one order.
That's right. So
you're either voting up or down.
So now we already broke them out. If we already broke them out and they've already been voted on, maybe the solicitor could shed some light on this.
Still one entire order.
It is. Indeed.
Yeah.
So
you're presented with one option.
Always vote yes.
I think Councillor Palmucci has a question.
So my understanding of what we did there is that the chair of the finance committee wanted to give us an opportunity to vote individually on each piece, which is what this body had requested of the mayor to break it out to. So procedurally, it's almost as if that was an advisory opinion, as if we were in committee. It was an advisory vote as to each individual element. You can think of it as if it was like a motion to amend by cutting or approving. So it was, do you approve or disapprove, almost as if it was an amendment. We went through each one so that people could speak and vote individually on the elements. Now the overall order in its entirety is up for a vote, irregardless of what happened on the subparts.
So in actuality, Madam President. So in actuality, there's no separation of any of these. You either take it or leave it.
That is how the mayor introduced this particular measure. Despite us asking that they reintroduce it in separate parts, they broke it out within one ordinance. So we cannot, we can approve, we can deny, or we can cut individual lines. But those are our only three options in terms of 17-50.
Okay, thank you.
Is that everybody clearer?
Go ahead.
Motion made by Laforest and seconded by Harris.
This is on the overall order 2017-50.
Councillor Kane. No. Councillor Crowe. No. Councillor DeBona. Yes. Councillor Finn. No. Councillor Harris. Councillor Laforest. Yes. Councillor Liang.
Yes.
Councillor Palmucci.
Yes.
President Hughes.
Yes.
6 members. The order passes.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. Did we have something else out of finance? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam President,
So we'll go back. Yes.
point of personal privilege.
Yes,
I just asked that I had stepped out of the chamber to use the restroom. Could I just ask that my vote be recorded on 16-287 as a yes and on 17-55 as a yes?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Will do.
Okay. Next, presentations of petitions, memorials, or remonstrance. Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Quincy lost a gentleman, a guy, Bill Gardner, Sr. of Squantum, who passed away at home last Thursday, surrounded by his family. Bill was a graduate of North Quincy High School, class of 1970. Bill's life was centered on his family, friends, and community. He was a longtime resident of Squantum, where he served as a coach for Squantum Youth Softball, baseball, Sacred Heart basketball, and the Squantum Storm Youth Football team, where he also served as treasurer. Bill delighted the children of Squantum for many years as the Easter Bunny at the annual Easter party. He also proudly served as a Grand Marshal in the 100th annual Squantum 4th of July parade. Bill also participated in the annual Quincy Christmas parade, taking care of all the costume characters for many years. Bill was happiest surrounded by his children and grandchildren, and he loved his family and friends dearly. He loved life and accepted everyone for who they were. Bill was the beloved husband of 38 years to his high school sweetheart, Alicia Noble Gardner. Loving father of Nancy and her husband Eugene Delisle of Quincy, Bill Gardner Jr. of Quincy, and Robert Gardner and his wife Caroline of Weymouth. A celebration of life will be held at Cohane Funeral Home at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow, with a funeral mass to follow at Sacred Heart Church at 10:30. Donations in memory of Bill may be made to the Arc of South Norfolk, the Family Autism Center, 789 Clapboard Tree Street, Westwood, Mass. 02090, or Crossroads School, 11 Huron Drive, Natick, Mass. 01760. And just following up what I just said, I mentioned I can bring something personally to this of what type of man he was. My son was about this big, and all he wanted to do is be on the Squantum Storm. And as my wife and myself would always force, that if you start something, you had to finish it. So on really the third time I met Bill was when it really reached out to me what type of a guy he was. The first time I met him was the sign up. Second time was when my son Ted got his helmet and his shoulder pads and he was all excited. The third time was the first practice. And about halfway through the practice, coming over to where my car was parked, where I was watching, was this distraught kid that didn't want to play no more. And there was Bill with his hand on his shoulder pads, patting him on the back, saying everything's going to be all right. I could see it, but knowing that he was going to ask me to quit, and I obviously I wouldn't let him stay at something that he would even get hurt at. So I think the biggest relief was
not my son's look on his face when I said he didn't have to play, but with Bill's relief that my son wasn't going to play. But that memory was in my mind, and thought of him, especially, and any time I saw him, whether it was, just passing by, whether it was at Tedeschi's or any event, he was just, like I said before, a gem of a guy, and his wife, Alicia, is the same, and my heart goes out to the tie and the family.
I also wanted to note, again, and I'm sure everybody remembers this, but I think it's important, given what we do here, that Alicia Gardner, his widow, served up here as the Ward 6 councilor with incredible and great honor. And I again, hope everyone, again, will keep her in particular, as well as her entire family as well, in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to send my condolences to the Gardner family and the Noble family as well. I had a close relationship with Bill, and he didn't talk a lot, but you just got a warm feeling standing next to him. You knew, just seeing him tonight at the wake with Councillor Harris, and just looking down and the impact that he had on me presently, and just being an instrumental part of the city of Quincy, being a Swanham resident for many, many years. I just was thinking about him recently in the last few years, and my condolences are to the entire Gardner and Noble family. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeBona. Finally, I would like to keep in our prayers this evening the family of James Gralton, the father of the purchaser for the city, Catherine Hoban. Mr. Gralton died peacefully May 2nd at the age of 92. He was raised in South Boston and a graduate of South Boston High. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy and was a veteran of World War II, so truly a member of the greatest generation. He was married to his wife, Mary. They settled in Quincy and raised their family here. Again, just a proud man who truly was a member of the greatest generation, where we have so few of those folks left. And our thoughts and prayers are with the Gralton family, and we wish them just all the best wishes for them, and we'll be thinking of them. Anyone else? Okay. Motions, orders, resolutions? Scheduling of committee meetings or public hearings? Okay. Yeah, okay, great. Councilor Kroll.
I just want to take a moment and again publicly thank all my colleagues and the administration for putting together that marathon budget season last Friday. We got through a lot. We had some very substantive discussions, and the great news is we'll be back together on the 24th in the Great Hall to finish the next section of the fiscal year 2018 budget. So that meeting's already on the calendar. I just wanted to, people's schedules are busy, so it's there.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to make a reminder as well as Monday, I know this is already on the calendar, but Monday, June 5th will be the start of the substance use hearings about the opiate epidemic in our city. So Laura Martin will be coming in front of us from the mayor's representative for the substance use task force. So just a reminder, Monday, June 5th at 6:30 before the city council meeting at 7:30. Thank you.
Seeing anything further for the good of the order? Okay, great. I'd state a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Palmucci. All those in favor? Aye.